this the part where I talk? I don't know if we've done the countdown part yet. All right, cool. I think we are good. Yeah, see Flacco. I think we are live. What's up, everybody? Hope everybody's having a wonderful time. I'm super excited. Today, we are joined by the champion of the year himself, Mr. Chilla Jones. This is an exciting moment. Honestly, like it's super cool to get to meet you, having looked a little bit into your career, listened to your excellent music, watched your battles. Like, not gonna lie, I'm a writer's kind of guy, so the writer types, it's totally my cup of tea right off the jump. And it's just great to have you joining us on the Bridge the Gap journey as we basically the goal of this is to talk to super interesting people such as yourself, kind of walk through the story of your life and extract knowledge nuggets for everyone to share and just kind of like talk about you, the person and your journey, because you've done some pretty incredible things and you have put in a very large amount of work with a crazy ethic that needs to be just recognized and honored, because at the end of the day, that's what longevity is about, and that's the most fascinating thing to me. But for our little intro, we tend to start a little bit with Liddy Bro Flacco, my co-host. Oh, my name's Holden Stefan Roy. I've been bad at saying my own name, but Liddy Bro Flacco walks us through kind of the journey of how this all came to be. So if
Yeah,
you want to take it away,
yeah.
Flacco.
Big facts, big facts. So yeah, chilling. So what happened, right, was like I was doing usual rapper thing, right? I was dropping an album. I was working on that album with an engineer out in Montreal. And the engineer, he's particular. He does not share the music of everybody that he works with, right? Because you share one guy's music that you work with, now you got to share every guy's music that you work with, you know? And
Right.
not engineers don't want to always associate themselves with everybody that they record, you know? But it
Fact.
just so happens that he did want to be associated with what we were doing. And so he shared, the music. And Holden, who does album reviews, also noticed that. And he took notice of it because he knows that, Merker doesn't really share music that he engineers. And so he took note of it, checked out the music, and he did an album review, then did an interview. And when he did the interview, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like I was taken aback. I was like, yo, how have I been doing rap music this long? And I've never gotten to talk about like my childhood growing up and like the important things that, you know what I mean? Like these are the things that really build us into, what we end up being, and
Facts.
not talking about those things felt like a crime to me. You know what I mean? Like the fact that I have been this far into my career without ever having talked about that was a crime to me. And so immediately I was just like, typical hood dude, right? Where it's just like you get up on something dope and you like, oh, I gotta put all my peoples onto this now. you know? So I was like, yo, Holden, why don't we do something together and I'll bring some people to the table and we'll talk to people, some good friends of mine that and talk about their life journeys. You know what I mean? And now
Word.
here we are.
Yeah. So
That's dope. That's super dope.
with all that, we have a bit of a token first question that we ask everyone. It's a bit of a story, but when it lands, you can answer it like however you want. So
Sure.
I'll kind of starts off with my girlfriend, and she's washing dishes, and she's got her phone playing that Black Eyed Peas song that I got a
Got a
feeling,
feeling, ooh, that's a
dancing, and
nice
she's
good.
vibing and whatnot. And I was like thinking about this song a little bit, right? And how music is kind of attached to these vibes and how this it just fit perfectly. It's good for the chores and the exercises and the moving stuff. But really, if you go back 10 years ago and you think about that same very song, we was all drunk in clubs, dancing in circles to that shit, doing all of our stuff. And it was like the latest shit, no matter where you were, it would shut down the room. And
Yeah.
that was crazy because that was like one of the biggest club songs at the time. So it got me thinking about club music today, all the Cardi B's and all that stuff, and how in like 10 years stuff, it's gonna be a bunch of kids watching their moms and stuff doing dishes to this track, playing on whatever the fuck people playing music on at that point, because that's just the nature of music over time and whatnot.
Facts.
Which made me think if music changes over time and whatnot, it's all kind of correlated to our own musical journeys and our own identities with it. But the thing is when we think about it and when we talk about it, we usually start in that little puberty era where we kind of form our own identities and start to solidify and attach to stuff. But really, this whole musical journey thing starts way before, right?
Mm,
Basically, when we come into the world from the time we're super young, we're gonna have all these sounds that exist around us from our families or whoever's the environments, whatever's going on. So, like in my
mm-hmm,
case, I can vividly remember my dad having those gray like boxes, the amps and the radios and shit, and the tape player would go in and he'd be bumping the Zeppelins and the whatnots. And then at nighttime, it was like dance techno music stuff that was playing through the radio from the clubs. And then like
mm,
my mom would cop these bad disco knockoff tapes from the like corner stores and bring that back in and play those. And Christmas time we had this weird techno remix. Anyway, there's all these different vibes and moments that got created almost just by like the music that surrounded you before you had any real control over the sounds that existed in your world. So to start
mm-hmm,
this off, I was hoping we could go back to when you was like a 5 year old little super as young as you can remember, Chilla Jones, and walk us a
mm-hmm.
little through the soundscape of your existence.
Man, if we're going to 5 years old, so I was born in '87, so we're looking like '92. And also a New Year's baby, by the way, so it's pretty accurate. The soundscape. My mom was big on Michael Jackson, so there was a lot of "Remember the Times." Doesn't matter if you're black or white. You know, a lot of those tunes. She was big on Whitney Houston, so there was a lot of Whitney Houston in the house for sure. Um, she was, you know, in general, she was heavy R&B. There was really not a lot of rap
Mm.
influence growing up in my household. It was Brian McKnight, Luther Vandross, it was SWV, it was Escape, it was you know, so many different, you know, groups and vibes. The one thing I like about R&B, man, you know, even though I rap, R&B to me is far and away the superior genre to me.
Mm.
Musically, absolutely.
Musically,
Yeah,
Musically.
no, it's fair enough.
because I think it just invokes way more emotions
Mhm.
in the record. So, you know, above all, man, you know, even though, you know, there was a heavy R&B influence, um, I try to kind of, you know, carry that over into my art form. You know what I mean? Because, you know, as much as I love rap, as blessed as I am to be able to rap, as much as I love the art form, R&B just hits different, man. And you know, I don't know that you know I would be a 34-year-old man with this opinion without that soundscape as a 5-year-old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To kind of mold and shape my perspective in that way. But because of that, I feel like I have such an attachment with R&B music now that 9 times out of 10, if you jump in my ride, it's probably what you hear. You know what I'm saying? It just
That's
is what it is,
super
man.
gifty.
It just hits different. You know what I mean?
Nah, I totally do. And I love the fact that you made that connection there where it's like you can bring it back to the foundation. It's part of why we go back to when you're so young, because so much of that part of your life actually impacts things that happens later on. We do have a few more questions related to that era of life. But before we get there,
Yeah,
can you let us know where you're from? Like where you are born, sir?
absolutely. Born in Boston, Massachusetts, very specifically a town in the inner city of Boston called Dorchester.
Okay.
I was curious because you know what, like I've formed a bit of a tight bond with I know I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Loxley, Sir Loxley.
Yeah,
Um and I've formed a really tight bond with Udo, a good friend of his that does a lot of filming out there and whatnot.
yeah.
Goes by Villain. And like
Mm-hmm.
because of that friendship, I've traveled up there probably more in the last couple of years than I ever have my whole life, right? And I've been
Mm.
there plenty in my whole life, right? But like in the last few years, I've gone up there probably more than a handful of times already in like the matter of like 3 years, you know? And
Yeah,
so I've gotten way more familiar. And so I was curious what part of Boston it was that you know what I mean, grew up in.
yeah, yeah. Dorchester. I'll tell you the like the line of the inner city, and I'm talking like dead heart of Boston. You'll have Mattapan, you'll have Roxbury, you'll have Dorchester, you'll have uh, Jamaica Plain, Hyde Park, the South End. Um, and that's like a line of towns that literally is dead center in the middle of Boston. So, you know, a lot of times when you speak to different artists, whether from Massachusetts or other places, I think it's the easy thing, and I'm sure it's like this in other states too. It's the easy thing to just say you're from the biggest city. You know, that's in the state. You know what I mean? So like you might have somebody from Arizona say they're from Phoenix when they're really from, you know, Sedona, which is like 90 minutes north of that. You know what I mean?
Then a whole
Just
so
because it's easier, especially, you know what I'm saying? If you're, you know, nobody's going to be familiar with Sedona. You're just going to tell them Phoenix because, you know, whatever. I'm
Yeah, I
literally
understand entirely.
in the center, the heart, the belly of the beast of Boston is where I was born and raised.
Yeah, facts. Because like I said, I've been there a lot, and so you get familiar, right? And it's one of those things like New York City, like where we have our boroughs, and then you got neighborhoods inside your borough, and even like within a neighborhood, you have people who on this side don't fuck with people on that side and whatnot. And
Yeah,
I've always been really curious, like outside of like that like so-called Boston New York rivalry bullshit from baseball that everybody tries to leak over into other shit. Like it's just one of those things where like I find a personal like just curiosity of towards the Boston scene, right?
yeah,
And maybe kind of what I've perceived as the lack of um mainstream rappers that have really been able to emerge out of Boston,
Yeah.
and
mm-hmm.
it's curious because it's just like it's so close to New York City. There's so much similarity to New York City, same as Philadelphia, right? That it's
Facts.
almost baffling that it's like, well, how is it possible? And I think that visiting up there, I've gotten to know, not to, try to steal away any of your, I'm pretty sure story that's gonna come out, but
Yeah.
like it's been kind of from what I understand from what going up there, what I realize is like that's because you have a lot of people caught in the streets. And when you
Facts.
caught in the streets, don't nobody got no fucking time for rapping, bro. Nobody got
Facts.
no time for rapping, for trying to be doing no nothing. When you trying to put food on the table and you trying to, stay alive, there's really not much space for that energy. And so I think that's where like in my head I've kind of like seen the reasoning for.
Yeah. The funny part about that too, man, is depending on what you're into in regards to the streets, it causes a divide, right? So as an artist from the city, I'm not in a gang, I'm not in a set, that's not me, it's never been me, whatever. Um, Being where I am now, there are no hoods that I can't go to. There are no, gang ties that I have that would make me an enemy to any particular set. But when you're in the streets a certain way,
mm-hmm.
you have that, right? So if you're from a rival set and you got a hit record, doesn't matter how hot it is, your rival neighborhood is not bumping it. They're not supporting it. They're not, you know what I'm saying? It may even make you a bigger target for them. You know what I mean? So we have this, and I say this all the time, we have this like big city mentality, and we are a big city, but we're not. You know what I mean? Like Manhattan as a borough is, I think, the size of Boston, not including the other four boroughs. So it's like you can be in New York and be from Manhattan and maybe have beef with somebody from the Bronx, and you may never even have to go to the Bronx. You may never cross paths. You may never, you know what I'm saying? And you still can find enough support within your state to make an impact, to make a splash. It's tough to do that here. Our towns are small. Our towns are right next to each other. If you got drama, you are going to run into them. The city is not that big. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it makes it so tough for somebody in that position, you know what I'm saying, depending on what their lifestyle is and what they're repping, it's really hard to get the full support of the city on all sides, unless you move a certain way. So it's, it feels like, and it seems like the people who have been the most successful from here have gone elsewhere to make an impact. Whether that was New York, whether that was Atlanta, whether that was LA, they normally have gone somewhere else to be able to kind of build their sound and their fan base. And then when they come back this way, that's the only other way to get, a large city on your side, is to have a buzz elsewhere. And then when you come home and people see that, people are in support of that. You know what I'm saying? So, it's been really tough to organically build a buzz and a fan base large enough, man, to make that impact to transcend to the mainstream. But, shout out to Joyner Lucas, who was from Massachusetts doing his thing. Salute to Bia from Massachusetts doing her thing. Millie's cousin Stiz. I like to think we have a ton of talent from Massachusetts who are doing their thing right now. And I'm hoping that one of them can really break through on a major level. I think Joyner is right there, man, with records with Will Smith and Eminem, and he's done a lot of dope things, but I think he's just one step away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
one record away. One record away.
Yeah.
But
once you're in the mix of all that, it's not that far. Like the times that I think that I was talking about was like all those years. But I think the last few years,
it's been a long time, man.
It was a long time. But like in the last few years, what's emerging out of Boston, even the streets, right? Like the drill scene and just like the street scene in Boston hits different. It almost hits like Chicago and like Brooklyn's, where it's just like you could sense, you could smell the authenticity through the song, like you're hearing things that you're like, I don't know if I should really be listening to this right now. I think that somebody's gonna get arrested behind this, but you know what? Shit's lit. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's the energy that Boston kind of has now. Besides the Cousin Stizzes and all the great artists.
It's so weird to like even hear all this, right? Because I actually realized as Flacco is starting this up that I also am super fascinated with Boston, because I don't know much about it outside of the fact that my city has a rivalry with your hockey team. It's a different sport, but same kind of rivalry, to be real.
Facts.
Like
we're assholes, man. We're assholes. You pick a sport, and we've got one or two fucking like arch nemesis, man.
Cities. Facts.
Different cities. In football,
when you think about basketball, you guys have a huge rivalry with
the Lakers.
The Lakers, yeah, like the Lakers, and so it's just like where it's just like LA people probably hate Boston people. Boston people hate LA people, and it's just like, why? It's just a team. It's just
it's the Lakers for basketball. It's New York for baseball. It's Pittsburgh for football.
Mm-hmm.
Like every sport, it's like there's a different city that fucking hates us.
I think through football, you guys have gained many enemies and shit, because Tom won so many championships with y'all that it literally everybody, because if I were to replay that one snippet, right, for any of my super huge New York Giants football fans in New York, like, he just try to act like we not the main rival. You know what I mean? Like every at Pittsburgh, New York, like
there's a lot.
That's a fact. Every team that has faced the Patriots in a Super Bowl looks at the Patriots as their rival. Everybody, right? Because they won for so long. They were the winningest for so long that I think every team in football probably just looks at, the Patriots like their rival. So
facts.
And that is Boston.
Yeah,
but I know like there's a whole bunch of underground rappers from Boston that people was bumping up here, so it actually made me wonder also why there isn't like huge runs. Like Slane is huge here, like people love that dude. I know he's from Boston, and like a bunch of other like in that like realm of stuff that made it up here. So it's like, yo, when I thought about it, and then you gave your explanation, and it's like, yeah, that's a whole world I don't know very much about. And I think it's super interesting to hear it because it adds a lot of context, right? Like sometimes we sit there and ponder these things and we might like not really understand it. So like even like when you go back to being young, like right, we're basically born in the same year, but just in a completely different reality, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like everything you went through and all your experiences being young is just gonna not parallel me in Montreal. Like it's just gonna be whatever. So I'm like in my little situations, but like there's nothing that happened that's gonna compare to like that Boston's arrangement that you described because we are kind of a lot bigger of a city, right?
Yeah.
But let's go back to like more just you, right? And you're like super young. What's it like just in the general sense of being young? Like, are you like musically involved in stuff? Are you into like the dancings and all these different things that are happening? Or are you just kind of just listening to stuff that's happening?
Yo, honestly, at that age, there was it was so simple. Like it was like there was so little thought, man, into
Mm,
what I liked and what I disliked. It was, for the most part, just entirely the vibe that I got from the song. I didn't care too much. I didn't know what they were saying in the verses. I might catch one or two lines in the hook at that age, but for the most part, it was like I just
I
like the way the
believe it.
shit sounded. It wasn't complicated at that age. Whereas as I get older and I start to understand and develop a taste and a preference for you know little things like vocal tones, kick drums, certain things that you develop a
Ooh.
favoritism to after so long of listening to certain records or certain artists or certain songs. um, what you like and what you dislike, what your taste is, gets much, much more complicated and much, much more specific. But at that
Mm.
age, your palette is clear. You have no scale, no criteria, no basis or grounds really to judge a song outside of how it made me feel.
I like that. Man, it's so interesting. You have no idea how many people answer this kind of stuff so differently from that perspective. But I really
Yeah.
like the
Mm,
way you put that because in your world it's like that. And like I empathize a lot with the developed taste theory. That was more my reality than not. So I fucks with it heavy
mm.
personally. But there are some people, believe it or not, who are like, yo, I knew from the first time I heard this was my shit at like 3 years old. So I was dancing and playing drums. And I'm bro, what? You were three playing drums and shit? Man, I was the
Yeah,
laziest
nah,
3 year old
different
ever.
people advance differently, right? Like I think that the
Facts.
older that we all get and the more kids that we all have and see our friends have, we see how children develop. And it's like, yeah, there's no explanation for it. Like
Ah,
some kids, like randomly are just like genius. Like, they're
Yeah.
walking at like 6 months and they're
yeah.
talking at like 8 months and they're like reading at like a year and a half. And then you got other kids that they develop and they don't start reading till like they're like 4 or 5, they don't start understanding stuff till later. And that's not like that there's never I always think that people get too caught up in that. Like I got my friend Villain, he just had his daughter, which is my goddaughter, about 2 years ago now. And
Mm-hmm.
like he was talking about his child's mother's family's, concerns with her development. And I'm like, you don't ever have to concern yourself with children. Every child develops at a different pace. And it doesn't really matter, I think,
Mm.
because it's one of those things where it's like, what do you want your kid to peak in infancy? Like,
Ah,
Right.
for
so,
real though. But
like,
like,
it's like they're gonna develop how they develop. Really, what matters the most, I think, is your young adult development, not even your
Yeah.
honestly,
teenage development. It's really when you hit those 20s that things start getting a little bit more pivotal, and your development starts becoming like a more of a thing that people should take concern with. You know?
I just
Mm,
think it's like fascinating, right? Because we talk to a lot of people who've done like long stuff, right? Like people deep in. I've talked to people who are like 20 years old, even then, and it's just random. It's almost just the randomest thing ever. I've just come to the realization that anybody can start at any time and end up at any place at any age. And there's no real way to like know what
Yep.
happens, but we all just have our part to play in our journey in it. So that's what's super cool about like just learning about the journeys. But in your world, just before we move on to like when you do start refining your taste, I like to ask about just drawing, because technically graffiti and whatnot's one of the elements. So I'm just like to ask if people have an interest in drawing and the visual arts in general.
Um, I love the visual arts, and to be honest, and you probably would never know from hearing me rap or hearing me even talk. I dislike books. I
Mm.
cannot sit and read a
Fucking
book.
fuck yeah, Chilla. I'm on your team.
It's tough
I'm
for
on your
yo,
team.
it's tough for me, right? And as a young kid, that there the interest in books for me was the challenge of being able to read and recognize the words, right? Um, which is great, which is part of my fascination with words in the English language. But as an adult, the last thing I want to do in any scenario is read a fucking
Read a
book.
book.
Let me watch a movie. Let me get a
A
documentary. Let me
documentary.
get, you know what I'm
I love
saying?
documentaries.
That's what I like. That's what I need. Give me a podcast, an audio book. I'm cool with that. I do not want to sit and read words off of a page for 2 or 3 hours at a time. I it doesn't do it for me. It doesn't do it for me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
An
I
article, maybe a lengthy article at max, right? Like,
I'm not mad at that, especially if
and
it's concerning a topic that I'm
even a
interested in.
lengthy article might turn me off. Like if I start scrolling and I see it, the little thing on the side is really small, and this is gonna be too many pages. I'm like, yo, fam, bro, you
I'm gonna
gotta pick
skim
That's
a
the
through it.
better,
opposite.
interesting
It is the
topic to like
opposite for
write
me.
this much about.
But I get it. I do get it. Sometimes I don't want to sit there and read, but sometimes I'm just like, because I don't like sit there. I walk, man. I walk around my apartment and I read, so I get my
And
like
that could be
steps
my
on.
problem because I need to do that sometimes. I was never a person. So I didn't finish high school. I dropped out of school in ninth grade,
Okay.
and part of what it is for me, and I realized this as I got older, I learn and absorb things in a different way. There are a lot of times where I need to be either standing up or moving around
Interesting.
as I'm hearing. Like if I'm trying to, for instance, if I'm trying to memorize, let's say I'm trying to memorize material for a battle, I could never sit here like this and do it. I would need to get up. I would need to act it out. I would need
Yeah,
to have a space to where I can walk back and forth. I
yes.
I could not just sit here like in a chair still and be reciting it. It something about it I can't do. And it's the same thing for if I'm watching something or anything like that. I like, for whatever reason, I like for stuff to be happening in the background.
You know
Okay.
what that
I like to have the window open and hear the sounds of the city while I'm watching a movie, or like
you know what when it comes to the memorization part in your battles, I think that right, like without me like trying to, you know, I think that I wouldn't compare my career to yours, right? So let me get there first, right? But what I'm saying is that as battle rappers in that like work in this modern era, right? I way shorter than you, right? But I remember for me, I always used to same try to memorize my shit and work on the repetitiveness of memorization, going up and down the stairs, working on my breath control while we do it, because I think that our in battle rap, there's so much more of a physical performance aspect to your performing of your bars
mm-hmm.
that it makes more sense for us to memorize it in that fashion. So
Right.
like
Right.
and to
Yo,
practice
but
it in that
even to that
fashion
end,
where to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
you're like the first person I've talked to that even said anything of the variety to me. So it's like, yo, all these top people I've talked to, the first person to be like, nah, I gotta stand up to memorize my shit. I never even thought about that. Like, cause sometimes in like personally, I'm on like this quest to try to find excellence. So anytime somebody tells me some shit I
Mm,
never thought about, I never even tracked it. I don't even know if I need to stand up or sit down to record it because I never thought about it until Chilla Jones just taught us all that that's a thing we need to care about. Maybe you might not need to care about it, but it's still a thing worth looking into further.
Thinking about.
facts.
So yeah, when did you start to develop your own preferences for music and start to get into it more like, yo, I really enjoy this and start to refine those tastes and get more specific? Like, do you remember some of the
Yeah.
early songs that you
Um,
got into?
yeah. I'll tell you what really kind of changed things and turned the tide. There was a Christmas. Forgive me, I don't remember the exact year, but I want to say I was maybe 11 or 12. But I was pretty young, and I had gotten two CDs for Christmas from my sister, my older sister. Um, one was uh Jay-Z, The Dynasty. One
One
was
900 Hustler.
Nas. Yep. And one was a Nas project. I can't remember which.
If
I
was
want
it
to.
around the same time? If it was around the same time, it might have been he had Stillmatic out after
I want to. I don't know
Blueprint.
if it was.
No,
I don't. It
Stillmatic
might have
came
been.
a little. I think
Nostradamus. It might have been Nostradamus.
I
It might
think it
have been
was
Nostradamus
that
Nas.
came.
one because Stillmatic came out when I was in high school. So if you're a bit before that, then it would have been
It
Yeah,
might.
it
It,
might
Nostradamus.
have been Nostradamus
it might have
because
been. Yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah,
Dynasty came out before Blueprint and Nostradamus came out before Stillmatic. And Stillmatic came
right.
out kind of like as an answer to Blueprint.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
So
And that those gifts. The thing that I didn't understand at the time was why these projects,
okay.
why these albums, why these artists. It was those artists because those are the artists that my sister was into. So for her, she was sharing her preferences and what she liked, and wanting to put me on to some of this stuff, maybe to see if I could get into it. Because remember, up to that point, I was,
R&B.
I didn't have a huge interest in rap. I was really an R&B is all I was
Mom's is
into.
playing R&B. You're into R&B.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Sisters.
so, my sister's into R&B also, but but her and my older brother were also heavily into the Jay-Z's, the Big L's, Big Puns, and just for context, my sister is, so I'm 87 is when I was born. My sister is 83
Okay.
and my older brother is 77. If that puts into context
Yeah, there's
where
some
they
gaps
were
there.
age wise.
Yeah, there's some gaps there, and that would explain each of their tastes. It wouldn't be
Exactly.
surprising if I were to ask your brother and your sister their top five, I wouldn't be surprised if your brother were to be like Kane, G-Rap, Rakim, and your sister were to be like, Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas type thing, because that's what
Exactly.
happens with those birth years.
Exactly. So that was the reason behind the albums that I got. And that's when I feel like I started to listen, like really listen, not just hear, but listen and develop
Yo,
tastes.
can you just clarify what you mean by the difference between listen and hear for the people? That's a good distinction to make.
Absolutely. You can hear something and not be listening to it at all. You can hear a sound, you can hear a conversation happening in the other room and have no idea what they're talking about, but you can hear the vocal tones, the voice, the inflections. But when you're listening, you are hearing with intention. You are trying to figure out what's
Mm,
being said, how it's being said, why it's being said that way, and what it means.
right.
Um, so that that Christmas was when things shifted, when I went from hearing music to listening to music, listening to the lyrics, listening to the flows, the pockets, the cadences, that's when I really started to pay attention to what was being said. It wasn't just about the beat, how fast it was, how up tempo it was, the instruments being used. It became, what is he talking about? What
Okay.
is he saying? What is he referring to? He's talking about drama he has with somebody else. Who's he talking about? And so it's those songs and those influences that started it, and from there it went to liking people like Cannabis, Redman, Method Man, um, A Plus,
It's a cool name to
and
throw. That's a
All
good. That's a
right.
that's a
A Plus
that's
is
a
fire.
that's a cool name to throw. You know what? I'll interrupt real quick just to like. There's a hip hop, super hip hop head thing. Like there's certain names that most people aren't going to name, and they don't name them because they're not the popular guys, right? And most times, like you expect to hear like Tupac, Nas, Jay-Z, Biggie. These are people's usual favorites. Then you have your second tier list of names, your super big names as well, right? Like names like Redman and Method Man. It's like, if that's second tier, I'll gladly take a second tier, level career, or whatever. But they're still popular names. But then you have
Right.
other names. You have these other names that when people name Pharaoh Monch, A Plus, Tragedy, Special Ed, um, uh, uh, um, Chub Rock. There's certain names that when you name them, it's like, oh, something a little extra about rapping that most you're paying attention to somebody who's clearly a head and shoulders talent that people expected to be all those names that are top tier names.
Right.
A Plus
Yeah.
was the guy before he was supposed to be, him and Shaheem essentially were supposed to be like this new level of crisscross Bow Wow type of artist that like gets big young, but like people expect to become the guy. Special Ed also had that about him, where like
Right.
people expected him to become the guy. The level that they've displayed at one point on record was like just so flawless that people would sometimes put them in those conversations. Like there was at one point a conversation of like, if Mike Geronimo or Nas is better. And like when you look back at it in retrospect, people might like laugh at it, but it's like, no, you just weren't around for that moment in time. Mike Geronimo was a very talented rapper, very gifted rap-wise, lyrically, and flow-wise. And so A Plus is one of those names that like he doesn't ever get mentioned much at all, if at all. And like I think that's definitely a crime because he was really, really, really talented guy.
Fair enough.
Yeah, for sure. Lyrically, he was very, very, very dope, man. Very dope. One of my favorites. His verse on Beast from the East was, I know Cannabis gets a lot of shine for that, but he was cold on there also. But but yeah, that, but those two gifts kind of led me down this rap rabbit hole, right? Where I started to figure out who I liked and what I liked. Um, the preferred tempos of what I liked, the content, the feeling that it would invoke. I think part of the reason why I kind of gravitated a lot to Jay-Z is because he was one of the few people I felt like that was saying things that would make me react. It would make me feel something. And again, through my connection with R&B, that was something that was important to me. I want to hear something that connects me to the person rapping, whether I
Right.
relate to it, whether I can empathize, sympathize, say something that makes me, for whatever reason, draw a tie to you. And at that time for me, Jay-Z was doing that in a heavy way. Um, but that's around the time when like I started to really develop my preferences. I would say that's probably around 11 or 12.
So I got a question about how you developed your preferences, more at like a logistical level then. So
Mm-hmm.
how did you find music? Like what was it like in Boston at that age, at that time, being that time? Like what do you do to find music?
Um, at that time, uh, in general, there were like uh, we had Strawberries, we had Tower Records, we had these different shops or places where you could go, whether for cassettes, for vinyls, for other things like that. And so I actually had right next to the corner store, right around the corner from my house, there was a like a mom and pop music spot. They had all the when new stuff got released, normally you could find a limited quantity there. There was one time
Mm.
that I don't know if it was for my birthday or whatever, but I had like maybe $10. And I walked into that store and I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what I wanted. I just looked around. I saw a cassette tape, a cover that looked cool. I went to the counter. I asked the man how much it was. Said it was $10. Had a $10 bill. I said, "Oh, this is great.
Straight up.
I'm gonna. Here you go. Here's the 10. I'm gonna take this tape and play it." So I got home, started to play the tape, and it was DOS effects.
Mm.
And it was the explicit version.
Yeah.
So so my mom heard it, didn't enjoy it, and then walked back around the corner with me to the spot.
Yo, hilarious,
Excuse me,
yo.
walked back a corner with me to the spot, and then cussed out the dude for selling me an explicit cassette tape. Um, but but yeah, that back in those days, that was that was what people did. You know what I'm saying? Whether they were waiting on the next cassette, whether they were
Okay.
waiting on the next vinyl. We would go to these little spots again, like Strawberries or Tower Records or anything like that, and seek it out. Now, going into the era where I'm developing my preferences and things like that, you started to see things like Napster, Kazaa, and Morpheus, and
Yeah,
all these different, you know what I'm talking about, all
I
these
do.
different, peer-to-peer, music sharing softwares and all that stuff. And that is when everything just blew open. When I could just search a name and find, 50 different MP3s or different songs, that's when I was starting to find and see, like, for the person that I was obsessed with that week, I could find everything, almost everything that they had ever done, and just go through it. And I search again the next day and try to find something I didn't find the day before. Um, that was a big way that I got into people like Cassidy, Graph, um, Cicero, Fab, A-Team, Hitchcock, and Ransom. Um, there was so many artists that I got hip to during that time that I think if it weren't for the Napsters and all that, I may never have gotten hip to. It wasn't like I could go around the corner and find a Cassidy cassette at that time, or a Cassidy, you know what I'm saying? So like,
Right.
um, so I
Yo,
think
that's a
at that
big
time
point, eh?
that was so key in being able to hear about, learn, and discover a lot of underground talent.
You
I,
know
I
what?
would, yeah.
I just realized when you saying that, like, I just realized, like, you know what it is that, like, the internet those sites specifically, they brought the New York City-ness of hip hop to everyone everywhere. So like where we always had a Chinatown, Harlem, certain places that we knew we could go get mixtapes. We had mixtape, mix show DJs playing on our regular FM Monday through, the whole week, Sunday through Saturday, 24 hours, 7 days a week, where we had that level of exposure, where we had Stretch and Bobbito like curating these up and coming underground rappers that nobody had heard before, where we had that and the rest of the world didn't. The internet brought that to the rest of the world. It was like, here you go, like here's everything that exists that is popping everywhere. And that's
just to like add on to that question though, was there anything that was like hip hop radio that would give you guys kind of a taste of new stuff that would, people were buzzing to in Boston at that time?
Oh, I mean, there was Jam at 94.5, which is still around, and that was probably the leading radio station in regards to like the latest hip hop, rap, R&B joints. So if there was a new song out, you could tell how hot it was by how many times in an hour this radio station played it. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that, there was Source Magazine. That was kind of like the only other way to really see what was hot and what was popping was through the magazines and through, mixtapes at that time was really popular. And so sometimes locally, people would go to New York, get a bunch of mixtapes, whether from DJ Clue, DJ whoever, bring them to Boston and sell them. And so that also became a way for us to hear, maybe that next cat that's ready to blow up from New York or from Philadelphia or from, wherever he's from on the East Coast or the Midwest or the West Coast or whatever. There's a lot of people I heard from the first time on DJ Clue tapes.
Okay.
And from there, I would hear this mixtape and I would be like, damn, this dude is fire. Who is French Montana? Who is, whoever. And then from that song, I would want to hear more songs. I would go right to my Napster and find that fucking song. And then look for more. You know what I'm saying? So outside of that, there wasn't a lot of access to a lot of the new stuff that was popping, the underground guys that were good. And, before the internet age, news didn't travel that fast. So unless it was television, or unless it was like a major label backing and pushing a specific artist or
music
a record,
videos and playing on everybody's radio everywhere,
MTV, BET, VH1, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we know all those names throughout the years, like that's why Crisscross is one of those names, like same as MC Hammer or Vanilla Ice, right? Because these are people that like their hits became so global that like they're known everywhere, it's ubiquitous.
Yeah, for sure.
Super interesting because like, I mean, Montreal's kind of the same, right? Like we got stuff even later though because it was Canada. It would be like a different, right? At some point, we got aligned, but even today in the world, there are places where like video games don't release. Some countries just get it like 3 weeks later, or whatever. And that's still a thing that happens. Just not with music, because whatever it is, what it is with Spotify and whatnot. But so it's interesting to hear that all of that, right? Because again, it like also it means that honestly you're only being exposed to like the best of the best in a sense, right? Because it's only whatever could like trickle its way to you, whatever was hot enough to come from New York to you. It wasn't just going to be like everything, which is super nifty to me. Was there a lot of like shows and stuff that you would go to when you were in high schools and teenage years and whatnot?
Out here, not really. Boston never has been, and even now still is not a huge hip hop city. And I say that in a sense of, having been to New York and spent time there in Los Angeles and other places, um, you could go to New York and go to EO Dub or go to, certain places, certain events, damn near daily. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If depending on where you were, you might could go find an open mic. You might could go find, a mixtape release party. You could go, certain things. But out here, the city does not support that. If we go to a venue, if I go right now to a venue in downtown Boston, I say, hey, I want to do a show here, a hip hop show. They'll charge me 3 times what they would charge you if you went in there and said, I want to do a country show.
Yeah, fair
That's
enough.
just how it is. It's how it's always been. And for, as somebody who, in my early 20s was running a battle league in a battle company, it was super frustrating to have to deal with.
I can
I could
imagine.
not get close to the inner city of Boston because the venues would price me out.
Yeah,
And unless I
honestly,
wanted to take an extraordinary loss financially, it didn't make sense for me to even, pursue it beyond that point.
It was just Middle East, right? Like if I'm
That's it.
like, that's it, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Middle
And
Middle
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 East
East
was
and
it's
Paradise Rock Club.
one of those venues that like they
yeah.
got their promoters and that's it, bro. Like nobody else is here to make
Honestly,
money.
though,
This
like,
isn't for nobody else. This
I
isn't a
wonder.
venue that like other promoters can use and like Chilla could have went in there and thrown a like nah, it's not the way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder like how many places are like that. Honestly, I don't think a lot about it, but I know Montreal has a. I wouldn't say it's that bad, but we have our own versions of that happen here, where like hip hop is
Mm-hmm.
definitely has issues. Just the word alone, everything changes. If you're a
Yeah.
bunch of rappers, doesn't even
Yeah.
matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you look like me. I promise. You say the words hip hop and
It is a
um
problem. Absolutely.
Yeah,
but
that's
no,
to this day.
yeah, 2021 for
To
real,
this day.
reals. Well, to be fair,
corporate
nobody knows what
corporate
it is now.
corporate corporations and corporate environments aren't hip hop friendly. What's funniest though is that like at one point or another, all companies and corporations throughout the last 10 to 20 years have at some point or another tried to do something hip hoppy. You know what I mean? Because of what it is. Like with like the impact is global and like it like I tell people all the time, it's like the 70s and the 60s and that era, like that was like a rock era, you know, like the 70s, maybe early 80s, you know, that was like a rock era and that was
Mm.
the rock era, period. You know, like there were other forms of music, absolutely, but rock ruled in that era. And
Facts.
like come along to nowadays, like hip hop rules the world. Like everybody across the
Mm.
entire globe listens to some form and variety of hip hop. It's local to their country and their people and dialect, but it's still hip hop
Yeah.
because hip hop has like changed the world.
On top of
Facts.
that, if you go to any corporate event, you're gonna hear hip hop in the
Yeah.
playlist. It's just what it is, because it's lit.
100%.
All right. So when did you develop like an interest in writing or any of this while you were in high school, or did that come later on in life? Were you like one?
Oh,
Yeah, I
that,
guess.
that was high school, man. That was high school. And how that really like got sparked and got started was we would freestyle battle.
Okay.
We would freestyle battle at lunch. And it was innocent, it was fun, it was, something we look forward to. We would make matches, be like, all right, on Friday we're gonna do it, and then like the anticipation of it, like it was so dope. And eventually that led to us making a hip hop club that we
Oh,
would
yeah.
go to after school for an hour or two on certain days. And that turned into us making a mixtape with
Whoa.
all different rappers and artists in the school. So you would have people who were just trying rap. You would have people who, had been maybe, writing and rapping on their own privately, who just were shy and didn't want to share their skills. And there's a different combination of young teenagers who all had a fascination with hip hop, who all, who would all just sit in front of our computer microphones in between breaks on AIM and and record little verses and little songs and stuff like that. And so those battles turned into diss songs on the mixtapes. We would diss each other. We would diss the teachers in school. We would diss the principal. And it just was the cool thing to do. But that process is what got me in the mindset, in the form of writing, creating, putting words together, rhyming. And then very quickly it got into multisyllabic rhyming. So instead of just rhyming, dog and log and frog, and then it went to, cat in the hat, jack in the bat, different rhyme structures, and started to get more creative. And from there, I just fell in love with not only writing, but the English language, man. Very, very quick related story. I went to private school in the early part of my life up into 6th grade. 7th grade, I switched to public school and, was introduced to Latin. I went to a school that was dealing with and taught Latin. And through that class, I failed every other class at that school because I didn't feel challenged. It didn't pique my interest. I was, from what I had learned in private school, a lot of the stuff that I was learning, for instance, going from 6th grade at a private school to 7th grade to a public school, I was learning stuff in this 7th grade of the public school that I learned in 5th grade at the private school.
Right.
I don't want to do this shit again. So it, the motivation wasn't there. It was boring, but I didn't take Latin there. Latin was new to me. It piqued my interest. And then when I could decipher the English words that derived from certain Latin words, it sparked a thought process that allowed me to be able to break down words in such a way that you can show me a word that I've never seen, but I probably know the Latin word that it's derived from. And because I know that, I can probably tell you the definition of that word.
That is one of the coolest flexes anybody's actually made.
Yeah, no, that's flat flex.
Ever.
Big facts.
That's so cool. I don't know how many people tell you that, but that's the coolest shit ever, my guy. Wow.
It's incredible to me, man. You know what I'm saying? Like during that time in my life, I just fell in love with the English language, bro. Like entirely, just in terms of where it came from, how languages were created and put together, the meanings of certain words, and to hear a word in Latin and then to be like, okay, so this is where these 3 English words come from. I get it now. Now I get why the English word is this. I get, everything about it, whether from prefixes to suffixes to everything, man. It just helped tenfold to increase my understanding of the English language. And that becomes especially important when dealing with wordplay, which is my specialty. So having gone through that experience as a teenager, I think has shaped my mind and my thought process in such a way that now I excel with wordplay and with how I put certain things together in my battle rap and in my rap career and in my music even. It's just crazy to think about. But I guarantee you would not be as skilled and talented with the English language if I did not take Latin in 7th grade and 8th grade and 9th grade.
And I was gonna ask, was that in Dorchester, the school?
The school is called Boston Latin Academy. It is So
Word.
it's in yeah. So it's in Roxbury, which is right next to Dorchester.
Yeah.
Um, it's probably 10 minutes from where I'm sitting right now.
Straight
Um,
up.
I
but
was asking because like I'm aware that like Boston has like a big, huge Latin population. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So like I'm like I like it figures, like
yeah.
my homie villain, like I forget the exact acronyms for like his like, I don't know if it was gang or
There's
group of friends, but it was
mhm.
something that had Latin. It was like like Afro Latin Union something,
Yeah,
But like I'm aware of the fact that like there's a huge like Latin population up there, and like the integration
yeah.
is proper the way that it is in New York City type shit.
So
Facts.
yeah, I got a question. Can you rap in Latin? Are you able to bust out some by the
No,
good like
no, I can't rap or I mean I can put sentences together on paper, but I can't speak it fluently. I couldn't go
mm.
to Italy or no,
All
I
I'm
couldn't do
saying
that.
is if I was bumping some future fucking Chilla Jones, and even if it was a 1-2 bar in straight Latin, bro, you don't understand how much I trip. That would be the hypest thing ever.
I'll do a few. I'll do a few. I'll figure it
Uh,
out. I gotta get back in that bag. I haven't been in that bag for a little while in terms of like that used to be, man, listen, I'm a straight nerd. That used to be my shit, man. Like we used to have competitions and different um different, there's this thing called Kurtama,
mm,
which is essentially Jeopardy, but it's concerning all things Latin. So it's concerning like Latin, like grammar rules and things, Roman history, Greek mythology, um,
that's so cool.
uh, literary works like the Odyssey, the Iliad, um, works from like Virgil and different poets and stuff like that. So it's literally something we would literally go to other schools in teams of four and compete against other teams of four from other schools in our district. And they would just ask us questions and we would fucking have little fucking Jeopardy buzzers and fucking buzz in and answer questions. Now here's a crazy flex, right?
What is
Um, I don't know if you guys have I don't know how heavy you guys are on Instagram,
I'm
or
alright.
if you have ever seen a post or a meme from an author that goes by Young Pueblo.
Sorry, which one?
Nah, Young Fuego,
Young Pueblo,
Fuego. Nah,
Young Pueblo.
might have, right? I might have and not even
You
realized.
might have
What are
That's
we
seen
what.
it and
talking
not
about?
realized it.
What
You
That's
kind of
might
it.
see it
content
in
are
Now,
we
the
talking
next
about?
week. You
that's what I'm
might,
saying. I'm gonna be watching for it now. Is more the thing.
yeah, you might see it just because his stuff gets around. He's got like 1.2 million followers maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So it's not like he's
but
not
he was
famous.
he was he was he was my sidekick in all of these competitions. All of these
Word.
competitions, we would go to
That's
other
fresh.
schools and whoop ass in this
That's dope.
Latin Roman based Jeopardy type of like it's such a crazy world, but like it's looking back at
Yeah,
like all the experiences that really shaped who I am, how I think. It's so interesting. You start to understand the power of every decision. Like that butterfly
facts.
effect shit is so real. If you go back in
Very.
time,
Facts.
if you go back in time and miss one train that you caught in your original life, do you know how different your life can be in
Yeah.
5 years?
Family.
It's
Yeah.
that serious, man.
Yeah.
And so keeping that in mind, looking back at the experiences that really shaped me and who I am, it's just crazy. It's crazy to think, what if I had just gone to I had an option to go to this public school that was 10 minutes from my house, which ended up being Boston Latin Academy, where I went, or I had the opportunity to go to another school called Belmont Hill, which was an hour away from my house. It was another private school. It was going to cost my mom an arm and a leg to send me there, although I got a partial scholarship for basketball. And I chose the school that was 10 minutes away because I didn't want to put that burden on my mother. But what if I had chosen to go to this all boys school that does not teach Latin, that specializes in athletics? Chilla Jones the rapper isn't sitting
Chilla
here right
Jones.
now.
Yeah, Chilla Jones
I
the
might
rapper
be
might not
Jerome
That's
Jones
exist.
the
so
point
cool.
guard.
Chilla Jones,
I might
yeah.
be Jerome Jones the wide receiver, or that may not have worked out, and I could have been Jerome Jones the accountant. Who fucking knows? But
Yeah.
it's like every decision has such huge implications on the rest of your life, man. It's so crazy to look back and really, really see like all of the decisions that shaped where I am now.
Yo, I
Big
love that.
facts.
Honestly, I just think it's so interesting too that you managed to do Latin Jeopardy and that made you somehow like, a champion of the year dude in 2020. Like it's just like
The connection is wild, man.
Yeah.
that's why this
It's
is so
so
fun.
wild, but it absolutely played a part. It absolutely played a role in how I prepare for battles, how I put words
But yo,
together, how I put
but
punchlines
also
together.
just to
Facts.
highlight the other huge thing that you highlighted, one thing is that like y'all got together and basically formed a club, like an after school thing is what I understood. That was pretty much y'all love hip hop. Let's get together, and then created an environment that had y'all learning how to make songs, like off the even if they weren't like the best. Yo, that is like I'm not jealous of a lot of the times. I wish my high school had that shit. Yo, for real, like that would have been the blessed thing ever.
It
So
was dope. It was such a dope experience, man. I mean, everything was brand new. Everything was new to us. We downloaded freaking Acid. Do you remember Acid?
I do not.
Acid was a recording program, very basic, like one step up from like Windows Recorder. It was literally like just a program
Yeah, now I
where
remember
you
Acid. I remember
yeah,
Acid.
you could just
I had a
record
homie who
straight
swore by
audio
it.
tracks. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's what we recorded all of our tracks on. There was no punching in. There was no like doubles really. We get on there. You gotta nail your verse. If you fuck up your verse, we gotta delete the whole take and do it over. If you're doing, you know what I'm saying? The only thing we would do is separate takes for separate verses. But like we weren't stopping halfway through the verse and saying, "All right, yo, punch me in. Let me start right there." You couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
we didn't know what to even try
Yo,
to do that.
that's so
We didn't
interesting
understand
too.
that you could do that. You know what I'm saying? So like that's how fresh we were in regards to like really getting used to and getting familiar with, hip hop and recording and things like that. And I didn't start going to like an actual professional studio until I turned 17.
Okay,
My
it's still pretty
brother,
fucking cool though.
who was a singer, was going to a professional studio and had bought me some studio time just for me to go in there and to hear how my
Oh,
voice sounded in an
yo,
actual
shouts to your
studio.
brother. What's your brother's name, bro? Shout him out, B. For real,
Hey, my
wild
brother's
respect.
name is Leon, Mr. Jones. We actually have a group, Jones Inc. He's a singer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a rapper. We got a single with Method Man dropping in 2 months. Be on the
Oh,
lookout.
That's dope.
I'm on the lookout now.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy, man. It's gonna be
That's
crazy. But
dope.
yeah,
Wow.
but he, as far as the music side, my brother is the one who sparked that. My brother is the one when he put me in that studio and allowed me to hear my voice, allowed me to understand what double ups were, ad libs were, intros to songs, levels. When I started to
Mm-hmm.
see it and then visually see the sound waves, like that whole experience for the first time, I was hooked. I was addicted. From that point, you don't got to buy me no more time. I'm taking my paychecks and half of them are going to the studio every week so I can be in here just having fun and recording stuff and getting better. And from there, man, I just continued to grow and get better and better and better. Um, all of that doesn't happen, man, if we don't start this hip hop club, you know,
So cool.
in high school.
But but because because like that's like where it's super nifty, where it's like if people and where like other places can hear it and like kind of almost take away from it is like y'all other schools can implement that kind of an environment, which would just create so many positive avenues for so many people. And like I don't know, the more I listen to people tell me their story, the more I realize that environments that fostered creativity like that when people are like teenagers end up all of those teenagers actually pursue music and shit for like a lot of their life. And it's really interesting. Like there's this one youth center in Montreal where like for a while half the hip hop scene had recorded at or performed at least one time. Like it's just having it available has such an impact on people. But then you get to this part where you're now actually at like 17. So you're battling still in the lunchrooms while this is all going on. You're still doing that battle stuff. So you're already getting into kind of a low end of promotion with your hyping up your Fridays or what I believe it was, where you have your matchups and whatnot. So y'all are already kind of doing the battle thing. You're simultaneously doing the songwriting thing, and you're doing all of this while in high school. Like you're not even out of high. You're not even an adult, my guy. That's fucking crazy awesome. You you are muted, sir.
You're on mute, bro.
Yeah, which yeah.
But you know what was not awesome? I was flunking.
All right, you still
You
you
muted
back
again.
unmuted again. Yeah, muted
You're
again.
on mute again.
I was flunking all of my classes. All of my
Yeah.
classes.
Yeah.
So, you
Yeah.
know, take it for what it's worth. You know, I was developing in one sense and doing things in one lane, but my academics was shit. And
I can
again,
empathize with that.
yeah, it
Well, I
wasn't an
mean,
intelligence thing. It wasn't I'm not
Yeah,
nah,
no,
you
smart
that has
enough to
nothing to
do
do
it.
with your
It
intelligence
was just
level.
like, man, this has my attention. This is what intrigues me. This is what fascinates me. I'm not trying to do this work that I
like
did in
we're
private school
sitting
2 years
here,
ago. I don't want to do
sir.
that.
We're sitting here talking to you today, all this time later. I think you hedged your bets correctly, to be
I
fair.
would
Yep.
say so.
Big facts.
So
Big facts.
I would say
Yeah,
so.
it's not
I
to
feel no.
say
I feel no shame. Like I was saying, right? Like I was when we were talking about children, right, and the development. Like, because to me, I'm like none of that matters. Like not even high school. I'm also I'm a high school dropout, right? I got my GED, but
Mm-hmm.
like that has no implications on my intellectual level. Like
Facts.
I did not go to college, and I spent my college years traveling the US and doing and like helping my friends that were in college with their college work. Like
Mm.
they could, like they were coming to me still for help with their shit in school. So like that has no implications. Degrees and things like that really have no implication on your
not
actual
at all.
intelligence level.
I dropped
It
out of
really has to
university.
do with your access to school and with your like personal commitment level to the school system that was put on you. So
Right.
yeah,
Uh,
that doesn't have nothing to do with your intelligence level at all.
Facts.
Nah, if anything, like, there's something that's weird that happens when you talk to a bunch of people with degrees in math, man. It's like there's this like conditioning. Look, university has value as like a networking option, and like there's a lot of values to it in certain life paths or whatever. But man, I'm not really pro school for like everyone. Everyone, there's like certain people it makes sense, but also your justification is mad cool. It also points out just a real, honestly, a big reality. There is like a privileged education, and if you're in a good school, you're gonna be taught certain things. But I went through an experience myself where we did a book report on The Giver in grade 6. Then grade 7 comes around and we
Same.
do a book report on The Giver, and I'm like, bro, I don't want to do this. We didn't even read it the second time. Me and this next girl who like, we didn't even read it. We just like fucking wrote the report. We still got high grades because we already did the shit. So when you
Right.
said that to me, I'm like, bro, I get it. Done. Whatever. Now you're just killing it. So it's like right moves for you. It's not
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah,
right
all the
moves
way.
for everyone, but for you, it made total sense.
And like
Yeah.
you said, right? Like every decision, like that's why sounds to me like you're of the same mindset that like no regrets, no regrets. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
I
at
mean,
all.
like because everything is the way that it was supposed to be for you to be where you are at and where you at in life. And if
Facts.
you're not unhappy with your life, then there's no reason that you should regret anything because it got you to where you are. And like, yeah, absolutely. I don't think that you're in a bad position at all. Like you should
At
take
all,
pride
man.
in all this. Like, yeah, these are all wins.
I'm
These are
blessed.
all
I'm
W
blessed.
moves and shit. Yeah,
Facts.
Yeah,
bless.
Facts, man.
you're definitely in an interesting position today. I was
Yeah.
watching. I watched your last battle there with the K Shine battle. I actually
Yes, sir.
subscribed to URL just to make sure I could watch that because it was like
Oh,
significant. Yeah, it was cool. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed
what
it a lot.
look, yeah, I was gonna ask you what is your how often do you watch battle rap? And then
Yo,
what was your assessment of the battle?
I watched no battle rap until he's Liddy Bro Flacco's like, you're interviewing Iron Solomon on like what, December something, January something. So I
Mm-hmm.
start researching him. And then I start researching Bones Brigante, and I start
Bones
researching
go.
Poison Pen. I start researching all these people. And via researching all these people, like I start to become more ingratiated in it. So I watched your battle with Arsenal, and it was because I knew who Arsenal was at that point. I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
get that. And I'm like, yo, you battled Daylight at one point. Now that's on a list I want to watch because I've gotten to like become
Mm.
familiar with Daylight as so I'm like as new as the shit gets, but kind of get
Yeah.
it mostly because of that bodied movie.
Yeah,
So I
because
watched this
before we started working together, he wasn't really, he was
none.
just doing album reviews of
Yeah,
hip hop stuff that had, like
all music
Red and
stuff.
Math, Busta Rhymes,
So I can tell
Extinction Never
people
Event,
like I can tell people all
around when I
about
met.
how your like 2014 mixtape that you dropped, Welcome to
Hmm.
Bosstown, is a fucking smash. I can
Thank
tell
you,
people
bro.
detail about why that's a smash. We get to your battle rap side, I just kind of get it, sort of. But I watching you do this battle with him, and it was like, well, first of all, you like walked right in and were like, bro, in another environment, you're gonna win, but watch me win. And you said it was like
Yeah.
the first bars you said, and I'm like, oof, that's bold. But you could see it right off the jump because the style, like, it was almost like the other guy wasn't reading the room correctly. And this is my impressions watching. It's a no disrespect to Mr. K Shine because you could see how his performance was still lit and everything was perfect. But it's like all the pauses, and I'm like, yo, bro, like, what is with the pauses here? I don't get it. It doesn't feel right. Then you're coming through with this like boom, boom, boom Matrix stuff, which was fun because I get it. I'm at like the same age. I get it. Matrix is just lit, what it is. But it also
Hmm.
had that like double implication, right, to the situation, right?
Hmm.
Like you adding on to the different universes and environments and shit. So I'm like, cool, this is fun. And then you basically took that first round, and then it was almost like he tried to freestyle back, which was a mistake because he got insecure when it didn't land right and it broke his
Yeah.
confidence. And you basically stole the rest of it. Because I
Hmm.
mean, that's just kind of what happened. You were just walking
So that's
around
a
with your
that's a
confidence
that's a great
like that.
analysis. I love
It's a
the
great
fact that you're
analysis.
new. I love that you're new to battle rap, and so like there's no allegiances for you.
There's no
Like
bias.
Nah.
I guess maybe like as we keep going and you meet more and
Well,
more
no, I mean,
people,
I'll be
like
real with you. I have total bias. I like the writers. Daylight's already my like favorite right now,
Mm.
kind of, because it's the theatrics and shit. Like I heard he took a shit on the stage. I'm like, that's bars. I'm like, I don't know. That didn't make me feel like bad. That did. I was like, yo, that's bold. Whatever. I'm watching like his performances,
that's
and
the
I'm
part
like,
of daylight that I'm not like super fan of. Like I never tuned into that
bro,
battle.
I used
Like
to
soon as
watch
I
Jeff
knew that
Hardy
like
and
people
shit.
were
You know,
saying he
like
took a shit on stage, I was like, I'm not watching that, bro.
that's
I'm
fair.
not
I don't
sitting
want
through
to actually watch that
that. Like,
battle. To be honest with you, I have no desire to like watch
yeah,
that
yeah,
content.
nah, you shouldn't.
But it,
Yeah.
like, I'm like, listen, nobody else is really willing to do that. And that's like a
Yeah,
level
nah,
of
nobody else.
nobody's gonna, most people wouldn't
Only
even be
Dave.
willing to pull their dick out in real life for all the talk they do about how hard they are. And I'm like, yo, you're not even willing to flash what you got. Fair enough. But I know Daylight is because you did that. And that was
Yeah.
bold. So am I interested
Dave.
in watching it? Nah. But have I watched that guy's performances be stellar? A whole bunch. So yeah, I watched you
Hmm.
come in with
Yeah.
like this like consistent build up of shit that I grew up loving on hip hop, and you rap like a song guy. You can hear the fact that you're basically doing a song a cappella the whole way through your verse. So
Mm.
all of that shit appeals to me. in a way where it's preferences regardless. But do I believe I don't even know what half the fucking groups are. So you're like talking about groups, and I'm like, okay, there's names that you're dropping about affiliations that mean nothing to me. Cool, cool.
Yeah.
But I took that you were a solo guy and he was not. And
Yes.
I got what I needed to get out of it, you know? The other side of it though, I could totally appreciate it because like the theatrics and shit, you almost could like you could hear the crowd was supposed to be like screaming and shit. Like you could
Yeah.
almost hear what was supposed to happen, but it was almost like in a weird sense when everything got stripped down, it was just like you know, it was cool. It's like you exposed the charade of the theatrics of it. Not to say that the theatrics are inherently bad. That'd be my
Right.
takeaway on that shit. But I watched it like the one time.
Dope. Dope. It's a very good analysis, and the fact that you were able to pick up on certain things, like the fact that you can pick up on the, the fact that um his performance in a different setting probably would have beat me. It probably would have, because in larger groups and larger crowds, if you have an event where there's 1,000, 2,000, three
But
thousand
who
people,
chooses who wins?
it's
Nobody.
it's it's
The
subjective for the
fans,
most.
the
It's
fans. It's
subjective.
subjective. It's
It's
subjective. It's
subjective.
better
So
that way. It's better
yeah.
that
So
way.
so if
Trust
you
me.
watch it and you think I won, then I won. If you think he won, then he won. There's no end all
Mm-hmm.
be all. There's no, like
Mm-hmm.
website to go vote and see who wins after 24 hours. It's just how you feel. And
Mm.
the debate is part of what makes the battle rap culture so exciting. The fact that you and I can watch the same battle and take different things from the battle, it makes it so much more interesting. So there is somebody that's going to watch the same battle that you watched, and they're going to say, I think K-Sign won. And you're going to say, how? Why? And you
That's
get to
fair.
go back and forth and see what their perspective is. I liked his energy. He was more faster paced than Chilla. He was, more active. He was acting his bars out more. For some people,
Okay.
those are
Uh,
the things that they look for.
I
Now, for
respect that a
you,
lot.
you're biased toward the writers, so you're going to
Absolutely.
prefer somebody like me, or
Facts every
Daylight,
single
or
time.
Iron
Um,
Solomon, or people like that.
Loaded
yo,
Lux.
absolutely. Yo, like if I
Head
can like
ice.
but that's again all preferences. So like because like I remember watching a few of these battles and I'm like, I don't even get where these other guys are just yelling at them. And then Flacco had to like break it down. Like it's not just yelling. There's like more to it than that. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Um, and then you start to talk to more people and
I
understand
mean,
a lot of the
unfortunately for
history of
you,
it all.
also like you like saw like my stuff, and like I'm like a bit of a shouter myself. So like your
Mm.
like first exposure is like some shouting ass motherfuckers. You know what I mean? So
Nah, it
like,
was your stuff has still got lyricals. I'm sorry, Flacco. You're not really what I mean when I say the yellies. I can't remember the dude's name, but I remember watching one of these iron or not even iron. It was some next dude that we interviewed, and I'm watching this dude just
oh,
bring.
Bones. When we
Yeah,
interviewed Bones, you were
yeah.
Uncasa
That
battling
was
Bones.
just like, what is this? I
Yeah,
didn't
Uncasa
understand
was.
it.
You know what? My fault. My fault. My fault.
So
Uncasa
like by
was like
comparison,
just smooth.
Flacco, it's like there's nothing. No, that was like
Yeah,
serious.
yeah, yeah.
And
Definitely,
but then it
definitely.
was like okay. Then I started talking to all these people who were described because a lot of this shit from my understanding is environments, right? Everything is linked on the environment. So you watch certain vibes, and if that what they were rapping on beats, then that creates a whole lane. If they're rapping on this, it creates a whole lane. So if you're a songwriter that's also doing all this other shit, it's gonna impact all the things that you do. And if other people aren't songwriters, whatever, they're gonna maybe I'm not saying that they're not, but like everyone ends up with different skill sets that they end up bringing to the table based on what they actually end up doing with their life in a quite literal level based on like that whole butterfly effect thing. I don't know. I fucks with everything I seen in your battles. I don't know who I can say won in that Arsenal one. That was fucking close. That was a
Mm-hmm.
really that was like oof. I like both of you guys a lot in that one. It was
That was
like
a
really
really, really good battle. Really good battle.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but
Now
otherwise
you have a lot on your resume that's like really like highly respected, you know? So it's
Mm.
just one of those things where like that's why I think that like the champion of the year is also like very like everybody looked at it like, yeah. Yeah, like this
All right.
is I think that this year is clearly like the writers' year. You know, like
Facts.
the crowd got stripped away, and what we got left with was the writers as the crowd. That's the only
Mm-hmm.
people that can be in the space is the people that are already performing. So now you're performing to a bunch of writers, so it's different, and the environment's going to be like almost a 180, you know, where it's like
Facts.
completely different environment. And
Can
so
I
like
ask?
to get champion of the year this year of all years, like it says something, and I think that it's like it's everybody's looking at it like definitely like deserved and respected, you know, like that's I don't think anybody's looking at it like what Chilla, like, you know, nobody's
So
Right.
doing that, you know, nobody's
I
doing
have,
that.
I have a serious question. So I don't have any fucking idea what champions of the year is. I know that you are this. I understand that it's correlated to Smack URL thing in some way,
Kind of.
kinda.
So
But
so
that
so
but like there's
so
no like easy Google on this one.
yeah. So champion of the year um is done first of all by a gentleman named Jay Black. Jay Black runs a show or has a battle rap media platform that's called Champion, where he talks about battle rap and different things. He reviews battles. He talks about, storylines and issues going on in the battle rap culture. It's almost like it's almost I don't want to say it's like trying to compare it to like an ESPN show, but it's on the same lines of like say a First Take,
Right.
where he'll put out an episode on Monday and it'll be about the battle rap event that happened on Saturday. Then he'll put out an episode on Tuesday and he'll have a battle rapper on talking about their battle coming up. Then he'll put out an episode Wednesday and it'll be about who are the top 5 best writers in battle rap. And every episode is different or has a different topic or whatever. But it's a platform that he started about 3 or 4 years ago that he's built up, has a tremendous fan base, tons of support in the battle rap culture. 3 or 4 years ago, he decided at the end of every year, he wanted to reward the standout battlers every year, right? So in battle rap, there's no MVP per se. There's no, champion, per se. There's no championship per se. But in his mind, he wanted to recognize the best battlers in every year, which leads us to champion of the year. I believe this started in 2017, where the winner is awarded $10,000 and an actual physical championship belt for the whatever particular year. So I am the 2020 champion of the year based off of my performances in 2020 during the pandemic. The reward was a little less. The reward is 5,000 instead of 10, because of the pandemic. But in my humble opinion,
Did you get the belt?
this I'm still waiting. I requested a Ted DiBiase $1 million belt, so it's taking a little extra time.
Yeah, I
but
respect that. I respect it.
you
I
know what I'm
respect the
saying?
reference too.
In my humble opinion, this is the hardest year, or this was 2020 was the hardest year to win champion of the year. So for me, there's a little, I give myself a little pat on the back for being able to do it in a year where there weren't any events with 3,000 people or 2,000 people. There was no influence or as we call it, gas that could influence the potency of my performances. It literally came down to you being in a room with your opponent, 10 to 15 people, who raps better, who's gonna rap better tonight. And for the 5 battles that I had, I was more often than not able to be the better rapper against some of the best guys in the world. So to me, I think it's a much more difficult feat to win in an era where every word that you say is being watched and paid attention to.
Yeah, super
Because
scrutiny.
normally that's not the case. And when you have, again, these events with the big crowds, 2,000, 3,000 people, you can go on stage and say a nursery rhyme and the building will flip upside down with cheers.
But I got a
It,
question about that.
yeah.
Just a little bit, because I looked at the app today, because I made sure to like I'm gonna pay for it, so I'm like I'm gonna look at it. So I see you're like ninth, which is unlike all of the rankings, which is nifty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how the
Mm-hmm.
rankings work. You have our numbers, which don't mean anything to me, which is cool. I'm not like hating. It's just you have a lot of those numbers. What
Mm-hmm.
it? I don't know. I don't know if I vote. I don't know what I'm supposed to do on the app. That's not the point. The bigger point is shit, where was I going with that? Wow, I completely
The,
lost my train of thought. Thank you.
his position, he was in ninth. Or you were gonna
Oh,
correlate that to the
yeah. So
champion of the
people's
year?
gonna be watching this shit on apps now and whatnot moving forward. So even with the crowd, does the crowd sway the internet?
The crowd can, absolutely, because a lot of people, especially more casual fans, will watch the battle, whether online or on the app or what have you. And a lot of times, especially if, such as yourself, you may not be privy to, you know what I'm saying, using K-Shine as an example, the affiliations, the names of the groups. You may not understand some of the references that we make because maybe you're just not into the culture that far yet.
Mm.
So a lot of times for people like that, when determining in their minds who won the battle, a lot of times for them it's dictated on who was able to get more reaction from the crowd.
Okay.
Even if it's a smaller crowd, a lot of times it's that they base it on, and again, there's no judgment. And at the end of the day, who you feel won is who you feel won based on what they say and how they perform. But a lot of people will be like, yeah, I feel like he won because the crowd liked him more.
Okay. So that's why I was curious, because it looks like there's this rating system that's built into this. And I'm going to imagine that the future of battle rap ends up having more components like this more than not, just in the
For sure.
nature of where tech is going.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so do you feel that like this kind of year has kind of shifted the gears? I know this is a bit in the future stuff, but I'm just super curious because like I never get to
Yeah,
ask this stuff
I
really.
I I I think it has shifted the gears at least a little bit in that, um, where battle rap was, and especially where battle rap was headed. Um, smaller room events, as we call them, um, were almost extinct. They were
Mm,
almost something that wasn't happening because for the battle leagues, you got to think about it, right? If you have an option, my friend, to do an event in your city that holds, at a venue that holds 100 people, that you can expect to make, say, $500 to $1,000 on, maybe, if you sell it out, or you have the opportunity to do an event at the theater up the street that holds 2,500 people, and you're potentially going to make $10,000 to $15,000. How often are you going to do the events where you make $500 to $1,000?
Yeah,
I see
not,
that.
not often at all. It's definitely not in their best interest to do small events, and
So
that's
that's
the
Exactly.
where
real
it's
the
like,
real reason. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
now it's all different because of Twitch and caffeine and everything, right? And the app.
And
So it's almost like if you go one step further with it, you would almost be able to reach more people in a virtual reality space where avatars are up in each other's faces. And I'm not like saying it will. There will definitely be iterations of that will
for
start
sure,
this year.
there will.
There
This
will be.
year, it's going to start
Absolutely.
100% because it's too
Yep.
easy. In
Absolutely.
fact, it would be easier to have two battle rappers right now start a league in virtual reality than it would be for me to perform a song. Absolutely, because
Yo,
it's
matter of fact,
logistically
you
just
should
need
you
to
should
go
you should
on the dime
definitely
right now.
chill it. You should definitely get be at the forefront of that. You know what I mean?
You
Holla
know what
at
I'm
your
saying?
man's
Dude, I got it
holla at your
worked out
man's what's his
right
name?
now.
Topanga's husband. I know you cool with
Right
him, so holla
now.
at him. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure he
Jensen.
got a plug. I'm pretty sure he got to connect into that world. You know what I
Nah,
mean?
man, you
Like
could just do
That
it all
that
with
could
be
that
on
could be
available
be on the
crazy.
shit.
cusp.
There's
Yeah,
That'd be
available like
crazy.
ecosystems and shit
yeah,
where it doesn't even have to be fancy. You just need to get the traffic to attract the advertisers. That's all this game is, right?
Facts.
So, and if you're
Facts.
gonna get
yeah.
100 people in a VR environment, it's worth like 10,000 views somewhere else.
Mm,
Big facts.
Anyway, so
facts.
Yeah, it's like
whatever.
streaming is
Um,
like anything else. The longer that people spend time on it,
shit.
the more money that the app generates and whatnot. So it's just like,
Facts.
yeah,
And the flip side to it now, and this is where, and this is, to answer your question ultimately, um, because of the app and because of how often, leagues are wanting to do pay-per-views and stream things now, because, the bigger events aren't happening and they've been, you know, ushered into partnerships with larger sponsors who are backing them financially. Now it's a contest of content creation. Now these small events are great for them because they can do a small event with 10 or 15, 20 people in the crowd. They can make 6, 8, 10 battles in one night and then space that out over the course of a month to make you feel like you're getting your money's worth for the $8 that you pay for the app, or for the VOD if you're paying $15, $20 for the VOD to be able to watch it at a later date.
It's
So,
just such a cool shit.
now, because the smaller events are easier to put together, now they're pivotal. They are literally essential to a league's ability, to a league that has an app, to their ability to create content and keep people happy. Because they can
So
do one of those small events once a week and create enough content to cover the first quarter of 2021,
wow,
and
that's insane.
spend way less money.
So basically, Chilla Jones is saying that at the end of the day, battle rap's gonna get hit the same way everything else is, where content rule everything around me. That's the new cream, everybody. And
That's where it's at.
yo, but because I was watching, I got really engrossed in the idea of the way that like rap battle kind of looks like WWE promo. Like I'm not even gonna lie, like watching
Facts.
it, it's so fun. But it's like fun once it clicks what's happening here. Watching you pull up your phone and be like, so let me read this thing about who I'm battling against. Yo, why'd I have to put this guy's name so fucking small? As you're like fucking doing this, this person I'm battling against is trash. And I'm like, this is
Yeah.
hilarious. This is a funny ass fucking video. I really enjoyed watching that. It made me more like, now I gotta go find that one. Now I want to go look into it
Mm,
more.
yeah.
But like I could say how it's really solid for like communities, because the one thing I can tell you about this battle when I was trying to find it for free and I couldn't, so ended up paying for it. So it's
Yeah.
kudos. You can't find it for free on the net right now.
he says it's so. You say it with so much
So,
frugality in your voice. Like,
It's just what
oh
it's like.
I
man, you
respect
are
it
part of
though. I
us.
I respect it though.
Everybody on
I'm not mad
every
at him.
forum that used to have the link said one thing. Yo, it was 3-0, 3-0 Chilla. It was just like across the board. I'm like, yo, what did Chilla do to this guy? So now I'm like looking at the forums, happened. It's like, yo, I don't know why anybody was doing it. So I'm watching these comments going, and I'm like, this is cool. Like I got really hyped up to watch this battle enough that I spent the fucking money. Like I was happy to at that point. I was like, not dude,
Dope.
it's not.
Yeah, now
It was
that's dope, but it's that's super. You want to know why? What's dopest about that is that it's very organic, which is like what's been dope about this whole journey that with you and me and this whole series and all of it. It's just organic. Like nothing was forced. Nobody like this isn't like through like forced promotion. Like the entire time, it's not like I've been like immediately. I did not like be like, what you didn't. You've never watched battle rap before. Now you have to sit through all these battles. I just was like, yo, we're gonna be interviewing. We're gonna be interviewing some people
nah.
that like, that have like a background in battle rap. So it's just like you're gonna come across it on your own. Like if you just do your Googles on them. So it's just like just let it
But
be
it's also
organic,
like,
and
how are
it's
you
been
supposed to talk
organic.
to
And
a
it's
guy
it's
who's
dope
like,
that it got to the point where like you enjoy it so much on your own that you're like, you know what, though, I'll pay the $8. Like, I'm down. Like, let's
Well,
get
it's
it. Like,
more
at this
like
point, I'm
at
all
this
in.
point, I feel like I want to support it in some way.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they're going to be
Mm.
hosting, if I'm going to talk to you, right? And we're going to be involved in this conversation, there is definitely a benefit on my end of being in the privileged position of speaking to champion of the year himself, Mr. Chilla Jones. But it's like, yo, then I thought about it on that ethical tip, and I'm like, all right, whatever, it's $10. Well, because it's not $8, it's a little bit more. It's going to convert to Canadian. I'm like 11 or 12. No, yo, I was checking it every month. It's going to change. It's not like it's again like we're talking like a
Yeah,
dollar
yeah.
each direction, but yo, Canadian dollar is not strong right now. So whatever. I got into the app, and yo, because here's the other part. I went to the Google Play Store, and if you check the reviews on the Google Play Store, you're like going, "Oh my god, am I going to pay for?" I almost messaged Flacco to ask him if it was legitimate. Okay, that was how like bad the reputation is on the Play Store. And we're talking like recent reviews too, like March. And I'm like,
Oh
shit, this
wow.
is scary. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. They're like, yo, something. And then somebody said you got to buy it through the website and then it's gonna work. So I did that flow, and it worked. And I'm like, perfect. Let's do this.
Mm.
So I don't know what happened. Just some feedback for whoever may hear this, because I don't know who the fuck's in charge of the app. But like that was my experience with it. It worked. I watched the battle and I had a pleasant time. I really like how the color changes for each battler, so you can easily keep track of what. I was like, that's a nifty feature. So kudos in the positive direction. Anyway,
Yeah.
and I don't know. It's such a cool experience to be able to search through it and see the ranking and see this ecosystem. And like, I'm like, yo, this is cool. Like, I guarantee you, I'm going to now watch more battles because I have paid this $10 for this app, and it looks inviting. Like, once you get in there, I don't know why. I just I don't know why there's bad reviews, because like, yo, it's like there's a shit ton of content when you walk in. It's not just the
Yeah, well,
future
that's
stuff.
battle rap, though. You got like that's all it is. It's battle rap. Like the environment I mean, like it's one of those things. Like there's good and there's bad, and like there's fans that are just like, I don't know, man. They just love to like fuck with shit. They love to
Yeah.
troll, and like like they also expect a lot. Like the fans expect a lot for next to nothing, because for all these years before that app, like the content was free online on YouTube, and like they didn't pay anything. So like I think for a lot of the battle rap fans, the concept of paying for the entertainment is
Turned them
still
off.
like yeah, it turns them off, and they're just looking for to complain about anything, and that's just
But
pretty much what it is.
it's honestly like I should probably do it in the sense of if I'm going to be involved in it, I should stay up to date a little bit more. It's kind of exciting. I don't know. I go through
Yeah.
like binges. I can watch like 2 hours of battle rap, and then I'm like, I need to go watch nice people being nice to each other. That's the
Well,
facts of it.
the cool thing about the app is, you pay the $8, $9, whatever it is, and you have access to everything on it, right?
Everything.
Say you watch everything on it, and you decide you don't want the app anymore. You stop paying. You can pay for it again in 3 months or 4 months, and then watch everything you missed in those 3 months or 4 months. You know what I'm saying? So it's set up so you're not you don't really have to pay month by month by month to keep up with what's going on, because paying that $8.99 gives you at least 30 days of access to everything that it's got on there.
I'm gonna just
So
keep
Yeah.
doing it.
there are certain people that I know who are just casual fans and say they might be a fan of, say, Rum Nitty, right? So that they might be a fan of Rum Nitty, who's another battler, and they're gonna wait
Shouts
till a
to
Rum
Rum.
Nitty battle comes out on the app before they spend that
Yeah.
$8.99 again.
Yeah,
So if
exactly.
they know Rum Nitty's got a big battle coming up and they know it's going to be on the app on, May 30th, then you best believe on May 29th, they're paying their $8.99 and they're getting ready to watch for this Rum Nitty
Yeah, they
battle
look
that's
at it.
coming
They
out.
look at it like there's they're dropping now. My favorite artist is dropping an album. I'm coming by to drop my $8 for the album, and
Exactly.
that's so that you could track my numbers in that way and understand where my support lies. And it's just another way for battlers to like indicate their like worth.
Yeah, exactly.
I just figured it was dope to just pay it. I was like, whatever.
Nah, it is. Holden, feel good.
For sure, hundred
What's up, though?
percent.
And
Yeah,
I have to say though, I was entertained. So my
yeah.
first
Dope.
exposure to the URL app is Chilla Jones versus K Shine, which I would highly recommend y'all go watch if you haven't peeped that. That alone was a very entertaining experience.
Big
Uh,
facts. I
Thank you,
would
bro.
definitely
and
recommend. I would
I
recommend taking the journey of the year of 2020
Mm.
on the app, and like seeing the
yo, bro, I'm
progression.
already
It
thinking
makes even
about
more
battle rap
sense. It's like
reviews
it
on Twitch. You
blossoms
know.
like a flower, and like you could see the full blown uh like kind of change in the environment.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely link that. But let's go back to you for a second, because I mean that's more of the today you, which is still incredible because you're the champion of the year. It's just fun to say it, right? Because not everybody can say that. And there's only one of those, as I understand it, correct, for the year. So
There's only one
that's
of those
good.
per year. Yes, sir.
Mm. That's a long time that your Twitter's gonna say COTY. I imagine then.
Yeah, it'll say it again next year.
Woo! I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's very
It'll
cool.
Mm-hmm.
say it again. It'll say it again next year.
I like that type
Um,
of talk. I always
so
encourage it. Big
but I
facts.
don't want to like take away from your music either, though, because that part's like
Hmm.
super important. And if we go like back to like when you're finishing high school and stuff, you were also recording music and you
Yes,
were
sir.
kind of doing the small end of stuff. So when does it kind of elevate? Does it go in a musical route first, or does it go in more of a battle rap route at first for you?
Mu- music, music, definitely. Um, at that point, as I drop out of high school, as I get more into creating and recording music, start working a full time job, putting my paychecks toward the studio, and after that, I started to put out projects. My very first project is called Jones the Mixtape. It's hosted by DJ Vlad before Vlad TV and all that stuff became a thing. And this was 2000 and I want to say 2007. This was 2007. I put out a street album, I think 21 records, all original, hosted by DJ Vlad. And from that point all the way up through 2010, I had put out seven mixtapes. Like that's how much I was recording and putting stuff out. And back then there was no, I didn't know about labels and press release. Like all I was doing is, outside of putting them on CDs and getting covers made and stuff like that, I was putting them on MySpace. I was, you know, putting the link out for people to listen to. Like, but I was still, making a lot of noise and impact in the city. People were liking it. People were gravitating to it. And for me, it was dope and interesting because I was still new to it. I was still new to the process. I wasn't making music to make a hit record. I was making music as an outlet at that point. I had no understanding of trying to make a hit record, no desire to make a song that was going to play 1,000 times on the radio. It was me having fun, experimenting with words and flows, and channeling some of my rage, my fears into my music. To have people gravitate and like that and enjoy that was so redeeming and validating. It felt great, even though sonically, if I listen to it now, I'm probably like, man, my breath control was bad. My vocal inflections are all over the place. Like I would listen to it now, bro, and pick it apart like crazy. But I mean, you're gonna do that, recording stuff and putting
Yeah.
stuff out 14 years in the
You
past.
gotta
You know
you
what I
gotta
mean?
you gotta get your 10,000 hours in, and those are the lessons that you
Exactly,
learn on that journey, and then next thing you
exactly.
know, like once you get those hours in, I feel like we all kind of turn into like Jay, where it's just like the music just starts coming to you naturally, and the words just form in your head, and you don't
Hmm.
really, spend too much time in the writing process as much as you spend in the vibing process, because you know that that's where it's all really going to come from.
Yeah, 100%. And so as I start making more music, more mixtapes, more projects, that's where my mind goes, and that's where my process shifts. Then it starts to become, you know, what kind of song can I make that women will like? What kind of song can I make that Boston specifically will like? What song can I make that everybody can relate to and everybody will like? And so then it became me challenging myself to make certain songs or certain types of songs or appealing to certain demographics. And, um, you know, that's where a lot of that musically, where a lot of my creative process changed. And I wasn't only making music as a means of venting and, you know, putting myself in my music, but now I was making music that certain types of people could relate to, and people from certain places can relate to, and people with certain experiences can relate to. And so battle rap wasn't even a thought in my mind for a long time. Like after like the freestyle stuff at school, which was like 2004, 2005, I didn't really get back into battling myself, like into that mindset till like 2011.
So
2010, 2011 is when I first got back into it. And that was when things shifted, less music and more into battle rap. So
yo, that's like, oh, we lost him. I think he's back. He's back with us.
Yeah, nah, he's here. He just on his
Yeah,
mic.
awesome. Just gotta unmute, and we're almost back at it. If you can flip the
okay,
phone,
okay, cool.
awesome. We cool with it.
Yep.
Yo, but before we get into your battle rap though, because I listen to like some of your dot piff stuff, right? So I'm gonna go back when I go
Mm-hmm.
listen to it. There's stuff like this Mortal Kombat freestyle that was kind of ill. Um, I remember you from one of your collab mixtapes. There, you flipped the fucking Kid Cudi Pursuit of Happiness bit, and I was lit. Or
Mm.
on one of your tracks, you take the Money fucking Pink Floyd sample, and you fucking just do this beautiful fucking. It's good, man. Like your ear for beats during this whole like, yo,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous, but it's also cool because it doesn't really sound like. Well, it kind of sounds like what I understand Boston's supposed to sound like in rap from all the stuff I heard from it.
Mm.
A little tint of rocks in there, a few other things like
Yeah.
that. And I'm like, yo, this is ill. Like, and that's why, like, when Flacco brought up the why isn't Boston popped, I'm like, yo, that's weird because, like, you know, I already have a sense of what it is. And I was like, it was just such a pleasure for me. And I already fucks with that so heavy. It was like, I really enjoyed listening. But you were talking about the vibes, rave that you recognize like super early on, and I could feel that in your music that there were vibes all across your project, especially in that Welcome to Bosstown one, which was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Boston. I was like, ha, when it
Yeah.
clicked. But yo, like it was just so many different kinds of songs on that project. It was
Yeah.
like an album. It was like a full album. It was like a really good, full, versatile I know that's a little bit, that's like 2014, but just in a sense that even at the 2010 stuff I heard, like 23 was it. I like your intro there. That was really clever. Like I like that little intro thing you
Mm-hmm.
did to explain where you're at. All of it. It would just feel like this consistency to it. I'm like, that's so nifty. It's why I wanted to just make sure that even though I don't know how much you're known for your music. So to me, it was like fucking blessed to go through that part of it. Like it's equally as enjoyable for me to go bump your old music. Honestly, possibly more so than the battles. So yeah.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, on a local level, um, I would say I'm equally known for music as I am for the battles because of a lot of those projects that you just mentioned. Um, Outside of a local level, though, it's predominantly battle rap, and I'll be even a little more specific. It's so during this whole time of music creating and stuff like that, I also was really big on YouTube.
Mm.
I had a really big YouTube presence. And part of that
I'll
is also
attest to
thanks
that.
to my older brother. My older brother, yeah, my older brother was in a an R&B group called Amir, and they were really big on YouTube, and they were known for cover songs. So they would do a lot of cover songs and a lot of cover music, and they would collaborate with other YouTube artists, and occasionally they would include me on those.
Froze again.
Yeah, sorry.
All good.
We're
All
with
good.
it. This is just how it goes sometimes as we
Yeah, yeah.
delve into this online universe. Everybody
What do
understands.
what are we doing? I don't know why it's disconnecting like that. My bad.
No worries.
But but yeah, on YouTube, my older brother was in a group called Amir, and they were an R&B group, but they would cover a lot of different songs of a lot of different genres. They would collaborate with a lot of different other YouTube artists, and occasionally they would include me in some of these collaborations, and that was, my brother's way, I guess, of exposing me to a lot of the fan base that they had. They at the time were hitting 1 million views on most of their stuff pretty
Oh
quickly, pretty
shit.
easily. And so, my brother, as always, put me on to the YouTube community and content creation and making stuff. So, like the Mortal Kombat freestyle you spoke about was really big on YouTube. Um, I don't know if you've seen some of the uh, recent freestyles that Papoose has done with like the NBA teams and the jerseys and stuff like that. I did that 13 years ago. It's still on YouTube right now. I did that with NBA teams and I did it with NFL teams. Um, but I would do a lot of those, schemes as they're called in battle rap. I would do a lot of those things before battle rap, before it was even like a popular thing or a common thing. I would do it for YouTube, and YouTube would love it. You know what I'm saying? And that is how I became familiar with people such as Tim De La Ghetto, who was on Wild 'N Out. He's on a different show now on MTV. Um, I knew him as D Pride or Pride. He goes by Russell now. He's from Canada. Um, huge artist. Super, super dope. Um, people like Prince EA, Mr. Meredith, um, freaking Wax, a bunch of people that I would, that I knew about that, we were all kind of in that same lane on YouTube. So on top of the music and the music that I was creating, before battle rap, I was also doing this stuff with the visuals on YouTube. So there are a lot of people who don't even know the extent of my battle rap career, but they know me from YouTube. And they know me from a lot of those videos that I used to do and the videos that I would do with Amir on YouTube. So, that should be mentioned too when it comes to people knowing me for music locally, people not really knowing me for music outside of Massachusetts. There are more people who know me for YouTube than for my music outside of my state.
I just think it's worth knowing all of the sides of you. So I'm so glad that you
Facts.
told us that you're basically a YouTube star from the early era of YouTube.
Yeah,
Facts.
for sure. And
Facts.
I wish I had. I'm so good with so bad with multitasking, which is why there's such a huge gap in my musical catalog. That's why you can't really find anything recent from me as far as projects outside of 2014. Um, I just started like getting heavy back into music, and this break that I'm taking now. My last battle was K Shine in January. My next battle is going to be announced really soon, but it's in mid June. So this whole break, this whole time that I've taken, has been recording. My brother and I have about 90 songs, various different features from again Method Man to Royce to
Oh, that's dope.
Wow.
Big.
Ransom, RJ Payne.
Oh, that's
Um,
big. That's dope.
so many.
RJ Payne is dope.
When we start dropping songs and records, starting with the Method Man one, um, I think the battle rap culture is going to get really, really hip to what I can do musically. And I think the world in general, because I haven't focused that much on it, and I've been so involved and enveloped by battle rap, it's going to be a wake up call to a lot of people who aren't familiar with that side of me, which I think is dope. So really, I'm just lining everything up so that the second half of my 2021 is going to be really eventful. You know what I mean? So this break that I'm taking, it's not really a break. I am working, but mostly on the music side and less on the battle rap side right now.
Yeah, but that's like really exciting for me because like I listened to your Loaded Lux diss track and I listened to the one that came out on the free. Yeah, I bumped everything I could find. I saw the stuff with Mickey Fax, all of the ones that were recent YouTube tracks. So
Yeah.
everything I heard from you was legitimately fire. Like as a
Thank you, bro.
musical artist, like you got a style to your voice that's identifiable, that doesn't get boring over time, and like in fact, it's just dope. And you have a heavy theatrical element to your delivery, which I think
Yeah.
is super important for a great song.
Yeah.
So you got it. Well, that's my preferences. You don't have to agree with me, anyone. But that's just it was just it's cool to hear that you have all the 90 songs, man. That's exciting as fuck.
So many records, man, and they bleed through different genres. It's not all just hip hop or boom bap. There's stuff in there that you could classify as gospel. There's stuff in there you could classify as R&B because again, my brother is a singer. So a lot of our collaborations have that aspect within it. Some of our songs you might consider poppy or alternative. There's some songs with a heavy rock influence, as you know, I like to dive into sometimes. So like, a lot of the songs that we have, the same versatility that you saw on Welcome to Bosstown is all through our catalog and it's all
That's exciting.
over, what we have. So I'm super excited to start putting out records. And it's going to be really interesting to see how people receive a lot of the songs that may not be straight hip hop or straight rap. I think it's going to be a bit of a mind fuck for people. Um, but I can't wait to see how people react to it because that's what I enjoy doing. I never want to be put in any type of box or
Mhm.
category or one genre. I like to be somebody that's all over the board. I like to be somebody that's coming out with a song now that gives you gospel vibes, and then coming out with a song next month that gives you R&B vibes, and then 2 months later, I've got a song that's got heavy boom bap rap vibes. You know what I'm saying? Like I like to be all over the board with it.
Yo, straight up, that is the perfect way to appeal to a youth audience today. So
Facts.
you in line with
Yeah.
modern marketing trends, my guy.
I
Um,
mean, that's just musicality, yo. Real musicians, which is what real artists that like make just so happen to make rap music, but are real artists. Like that's what it is. Like you never want to just be stuck doing one type of thing and one type of sound for I mean some guys do, and like no like that's not like a detraction of them, but like the guys that want to like do different things and try different sounds and experiment, that's just artists, that's artistry.
yeah,
Right.
facts.
Facts.
Um, yeah, there you are. I was like, was managing the pins, and I'm like, he didn't come back on camera yet. There he is. Nah, I appreciate this. Still, you're like, your brain is just so fascinating and riveting. So it's like, it makes sense how you're able to go against the plethora of different people and adapt your style or whatever to just destroy them via your brain. That's what you
Yeah.
do. You use your brain. It's like your
Yeah.
brain is just it. Like down. That's what it feels like poetry at the fucking max. How did you? So how did you like pivot into battles then? Like, so you're doing all these songs, you're pushing your shit, you're getting your local buzz on. How does that go to like all of a sudden you're like this battle guy?
Yeah. There was a time where there was a radio station in the city that was doing Monday night battles.
Okay.
There was a gentleman who was a part of that by the name of Gatman Jones, and he was dominating people at this Monday night, you know, battles thing that they did at this bar in Dorchester called the Dublin House. Somehow it got out, or some mention of me occurred to where Um, you know, the main person behind these events, whose name is Rusty, he also did a radio show on Friday and Saturday nights. And so, whatever happened on Monday would get talked about on Friday. And people who wanted to battle the following Monday would call up or sign up on Saturday on the radio show. People would go on there, they would talk shit, they would go Monday, they would go get their ass kicked by this dude. And again, somehow my name came up. My name was mentioned, I guess, as somebody that used to do it at my high school, who was dope or whatever. And after he beats maybe 4 or 5 people in a row, this DJ, Rusty, is like, yo, I think Chilla Jones should battle you. Like, nobody else is giving you any type of challenge. And so there was 2 different occasions where he called me on the phone, and I was like, with all due respect, Rusty, I'm a musician now. I don't even do the battle stuff anymore. I love watching it, but it's not what I do anymore. Like, I'm really focused on music. And the next Monday he beat somebody else, and then the next week on the radio it's the same thing. Nobody can beat this guy. Chilla's got to come out. Chilla's got to come down. Nobody else in the city is going to be able to do it. And he would call me again. I'm all set. I don't want to do this. You guys keep calling me. I'm really not interested. I don't want to do it. Beat somebody else that Monday. Go back on the radio Friday. Call me out again. The third time I got on the radio and I said, you know what? If it's going to stop you guys from calling me every damn week, I'll be there on Monday. I went up there Monday. I whooped his ass. And from there, it was like people just wanted to see me battle again. This was around the time I had started the battle league that we spoke about earlier. It's called Shark Tank Battlegrounds. And at this point, I had started throwing battles of my own. So I kind of took the clout and the credibility that I got from beating this kid and started my own battle league, was throwing battle events. I was having people such as Poison Pen and Sarah Connor and, people from New York that had seen that very first battle and had seen another battle that I had done in Shark Tank in my own league. And were coming out and they were supporting what I was doing and things like that, which was really dope. And that's how I shifted more from music to battle rap. Because once I did the battle in my league, Shark Tank Battlegrounds, I was in the studio with none other than Slain. And Slain goes, Chilla, you really need to stick to battle rap. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, there's nobody else from the city in that lane. Nobody else is doing that. He was like, I go to Canada and tour with Mad Child and Ill Bill and all these people, and we're judging at these like King of the Dot events. There's nobody from Boston up there. This is your lane. Still do music, still do your thing, but you got to put some more energy into this. You can use this lane as a means to get people to listen to your music. And it was really because of him and also because of Terminology, who told me the same thing. They're the reason that I took a step back from music and decided to pursue battle rap with a little more effort.
Okay.
That's really what made me shift gears.
Those were great. Those were great recommendations right there that they gave. Like, for
Facts.
So if I understand correctly, Slane's words of wisdoms was, yo, check it, Canada ain't got a guy from Boston yet.
There's nobody from Boston in this league called King of the Dot.
Wow.
Keep going. So and yeah, and in 2011, off of Slane's recommendation, King of the Dot had put me on World Domination, which is one of their biggest events at the time. And I was supposed to battle a dude named Catch P from Detroit.
Okay.
And the battle didn't end up happening due to passport issues. But literally off of one battle and Slane's recommendation, he got me a battle on that league. And that was part of his attempt to try and solidify me in this battle rap lane, because he felt like that was the best thing for the city. He was right.
He was right.
So even though that battle itself didn't come to fruition, it put me enough in that lane to where King of the Dot was familiar with me, URL was familiar with me, Grind Time was familiar with me. King of the Ring at the time was a league in New York that was big, that was familiar with me. And all of these leagues were wanting me to battle for them. And this is just off the strength of one battle that I did in Boston, which at the time it was unheard of for leagues to be pursuing you off of one battle. Normally you have a catalog of battles for them to look through and a history. I didn't have a history. I had one battle. So, right. My journey in regards to that, as far as battle rap, is so much different than the way other battle rappers got into the culture and got to the position that they got to.
Yeah, that's super nifty. Honestly, like you basically did a battle, the right people saw it, and then at the right time, and that got put out. Somehow you end up in a studio with Slane, which is just really cool to me. Like I really like Coca Nostra, dude. Like I really like them.
Yeah,
so it's like
Coca's dope.
So it's like, man, you're just there with
Coca's
that
dope.
dude listening, and he tells you to go to fucking Canada and fucking battle. And I'm just like, I don't know if they were in Canada at the time. I think they were. I think they also went to LA at one point. I don't really know. But like, so you end up doing all this stuff, and it's just like, man, that's like so nifty. And then you end up pursuing this battle career, which I guess just is, I don't really know how that progresses, a series of events or whatnot. I don't know a lot about the, for me it's still a blur, right? I know a lot of battles happen and they all got uploaded to YouTube and stuff, and you can kind of see stuff happen.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for me, my career definitely goes through ups and downs, and I definitely bounce from URL, which is the league I'm on now, in its earlier day, to King of the Dot, to URL, to King of the Dot. Like I kind of bounce from one league to another, and um, the way it is in battle rap, it's like URL is looked at as this East Coast street type of like urban league. King of the Dot at the time, as it merged with Grind Time, was looked at as more of this like white backpack type of like league. So it was like almost like two different crowds within this subgenre of battle rap, where it was, kind of a divide. And so I'm bouncing back and forth between a demographic and a crowd that's mostly urban to a demographic and a crowd that's mostly white. And I'm having success in both avenues, which at this point is really difficult for an up and comer. There are certain people such as, your Arsenals, your Hollow the Dons, your DNAs, who have experience with Grind Time. And so they're able to cross over and have success on both platforms because they have a history. And people know
I was
them.
gonna say, like, it's rarefied air. It's not common. It's not, and I would say when it comes to your career, I think that it was super wise that you did that. And I think each time that you did it, that performance informed the next battles, and the next move, right? So like I think it was constantly like a lateral upward movement where like you would go to KOTD and you perform so well over there that like URL would be like, we gotta have him back over here. Like we gotta get him back over here. And then like you do so well at URL that like KOTD be like, yo, you know, we gotta get you back over here. Like you're on fire right now, you know? Like, and so it was smart, and it's rarefied air. Like it definitely is. And those names that you mentioned are the only names really essentially that have been able to go back and forth very easily. Nobody else, and that's particular, you know, like that's a very particular, you know, like there's other names that have battled on both leagues, but they didn't have the success to be able to ping pong back and forth between both leagues the way that you, DNA, Arsenal, and Hollow, and even Hollow, right? Like it's kind of like I guess kind of, but like he battles so rarely that like it's not even like it's a common thing like it is with you and DNA and Arsenal. Like it's a common thing with you guys, you know. And with Arsenal, I think it's a different thing with him. Like it's a you know, it's an old mentality that he brought in from, you know, having done Lions Den and looking at himself as like a independent in the middle of like all these like kind of like wars of leagues, you know. And so like it was a different mindset. And DNA even like it was like just lateral movements for him. But like you came in and these entities were already there, and you were the first one to really pull off being able to go back and forth and to use each of the performances on those ends to leverage yourself into a better position, I'm sure, financially as well. You know, the spot that you'd end up at after, you know, doing all those good performances on either of their platforms. So like you're kind of like really the first to come along and do that after the leagues got, you know, started and whatnot.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's really dope. I think it has a lot to do with my upbringing. Like I said, you know, I went to private school up to 6th grade. I switched to public school in 7th grade. I'm from a city that, you know, is very diverse. You know, so I think my ability to connect with both sides of the culture is because of where I'm from and because of how my city is. You know what I'm saying? I don't know that I would be able to connect with the King of the Dot side so well if I didn't have experience growing up in private school. I don't know that I would be able to connect with URL so well if I didn't go to high school in the middle of Boston in the inner city in a public school. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of my success, even on the battle rap side, is tied into my upbringing and you know, my schooling and who I was around as a kid and as a teenager.
Yo, it's like that's why I like doing this show, right? Like, cause we get to go through your life, and I mean, you made these connections like off the jump. You're like connecting into your story like the whole way through it, so it's like really cool. But like I've seen people just like make the epiphany like 2.5 hours in or whatever, and it's like that's why we do this because it's so important. I mean, like for parents who might watch this, yo, maybe I let my kid go do these things. For like people who are young watching, yo, maybe I should go do these things. And even for like people like yo, I find myself when I really, really go through my life, I'm like, yo, I did a lot more than I remember. You know, like you don't really think about all the shit that you've actually done. So sometimes I find people sit there and they're like, I don't know if I'm good enough to pursue this crazy idea that I have in my head. And then it's like, nah, I bet you did all the homework and practice when you were like 17 and you just gotta like brush up on it now. But you don't even think about it because of how we are in this world. So that's why it's so fun to just watch all these little things that contribute to people's greatness. And like you've definitely achieved greatness, you know, like
thank you, bro.
Absolutely.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. Cosign. Big
Thank you.
facts. Big facts. Big facts. There's like everybody who like I've approached, you know, to be on the show, like these y'all all, you know, people that I've known through this thing for a long time. And like I'm being particular in the way that we're, you know, approaching it and like trying to like paint a picture of the story of like what it is that like we've built in this, you know,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
like your pivotal name in the building of this story, you know. So like,
Thank you, bro.
much
Thank you, man.
props,
It's an
legend,
honor.
facts.
It's an honor.
And you're generally just smart, right? Like you clearly want to bring the culture forward. Like the fact that your brain just went running with the VR thing. Oh my gosh, it's like a blessing that you're still involved in this. Like
Yeah.
it really needs people who are going to think with that kind of visionary level of imagination in order to realize and be in position so that when the new gatekeepers appear in the future, you're not bound by them. You are them in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%, man.
But so basically, like I don't know, like if have there any like highlights or whatever to go through for the battle career, the music. I mean, you're making music and battling till 2014, and then it stops music at some point. So I don't know what changes or how to like go through that part.
Um, I mean, in 2014, um, the only thing I'll say that changed was I think battle rap got to a point for me where I wanted more from it, more out of it. And I felt like the only way I was going to be able to get there was to devote more energy, more time, more attention to it. And so, whereas I was multitasking before and, kind of splitting my time evenly down the middle creatively, um, I decided to put music on a bit of a hold and, put a lot more of that time and energy into battle rap. And for much of the past 6 years, that's really what it's been. I've done some songs. I've collaborated with like you said, Mickey Fax, and I've done features for people. But as far as my own work and my own stuff, um, it's just two different mindsets for me. It's really hard for me to balance battle rap and music because if I'm doing them both at the same time, you'll hear my battle rap side in my songs, or you'll hear my music side in my battle raps because creatively, I have to be in two different mindsets to create those things.
Right.
When I'm having to jump between mindsets, it's not easy for me. And the way my focus and my concentration level is, if I'm locked into something, it's not easy for me to say, okay, I'm writing a round for a battle I have in June and I have a studio session on Tuesday. I need to shift into songwriting mode. I usually have to write one or two verses before I get to a verse that I actually like, because those first two verses have a battle influence because that's the mindset that I was in.
Okay.
So it usually takes a little bit of time for me to kind of write myself out of it to get to, verses that I feel like I like or are appropriate for the song that I'm putting together. And then vice versa. Once I get out of that and I get back to writing for this battle that I have in 2 months, I usually have to go through a certain amount of time before I say, man, I'm still in music mode. I got to shake this. So it's hard to balance and go back and forth between doing it, which is why I've needed to take this break that I've taken to really be able to lock in and focus on music for an extended period of time.
Yo, it's so nifty that you said that, Stills, because Iron Solomon expressed like the exact same sentiment that trying to
Facts.
be both was complicated. Like he couldn't balance both sides of the career; they were impacting each other, and then it was like focusing that allowed him to pursue it. Yo, take care, Liddy,
Yeah,
bro. Flacco, I
yeah,
understand that you have to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
My fault. I thought that, you know what I mean. Like we had talked Chilla, and I was under the impression that like at the 2 hour mark you were gonna be like, hard gotta go. So like I made
Yeah,
plans for my boy's
I
birthday.
do, but I enjoyed, I have enjoyed this interview so much because of the different topics that we've touched on, the insight, the intellect behind it.
Yeah,
And much
yeah,
like you
man.
told me going into it, man, it's definitely different than your average battle rap interview. So I know we've gone over time a little bit.
Yo, well, I mean,
Nah,
for me,
I've definitely
certainly,
appreciated
this
the
is certainly
questions,
not.
the line of questioning.
nah.
Sorry.
I've appreciated the insight.
No, I just to let you
there's
know,
no
this is no
time limit on it. Like
overtime.
I
It was
told you,
more
you know what I
like
mean? Like
Flacco
that's the
has to go.
beautiful thing. Yeah, don't feel like you gotta go. Like I gotta go, right? Because like now I have made plans and my boy's
Mhm.
birthday and shit, and we going to New Rock, so I gotta get there like in
Yeah,
time.
nah,
But
I feel you. I'm on the same timetable, bro. I actually have somebody
Honestly,
waiting for me.
so it's all right. We can totally do the
With
wrap up
with
thing.
that said, man, let's figure out a time. Let's do a part two,
Yo, for
yeah,
sure.
and let's pick up where we left off. Maybe even potentially, depending on the timing, maybe next weekend we can do. Um, Depending on the time and what you guys have. Let's when we get off here, let's
I'll,
figure it out.
We can figure something out for you,
I'm
Chilla
definitely
Jones.
down to do a part two. We'll pick up it at 2014,
Mm.
and we'll go from 2014 to the current day.
Awesome. On that note, though, I do want to thank everyone for coming through. I appreciate everybody for real. It's always great to see people coming on all the platforms and all the different things. Shout out to the people watching in the future as well. Make sure to check out End of the Week, who is gracious enough to provide us the ecosystem
Facts.
to allow this to
Yo,
happen
dub.
in the first place. Shout out Golden Jenny from Norway, who's been watching, because it's always exciting to know that people in Norway check this shit. Um,
Norway, what's up?
word.
Thank you,
as
Jenny.
Word. Shouts
as
shouts to Ishmael, who's been
yo,
like
shout out Ishmael.
in the
He's
chat the whole time. Ishmael,
always
and he's been like shouting out like Slain. He's definitely a Slain fan.
yo
So like all the
Slane's
Slain love, he
yo
like
Slane is
appreciates it for
big in
sure. You can see
Montreal.
clearly.
I don't know anybody that doesn't like them in Montreal for real. All of that vibe, like when La Coca Nostra hit Montreal recently pre-COVID, that was a big deal to whoever got to open that show. You know, like that was cool.
Facts. Facts. Salute to
Anyhow,
Slane, man.
Facts.
but that's not really you're honestly the VIP at the moment, Chilla Jones. Your mind is so
Facts.
fascinating, like so fascinating. I had a great time with this. I wish we could keep going,
I did
understanding
too.
time restraints for
Thank you so
everybody.
much, bro.
Yeah, yeah, man. I'm serious, man. Let's see if in the next couple of
So
weeks
we can
we can get
totally
back and
figure
do a
that
part
out.
two for sure.
But also
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll be in contact.
make sure to follow End of the Week everywhere at slash EOW TV, EOW TV, the letters in that order at all the
Facts.
platforms because they fucking dope and they have a whole bunch of stuff going on. And if you want to rap, hit up their open mic on Sunday at Set Shot in the Zooms. It's a good time. I think that's tomorrow. I think we're
Facts.
Saturday. Anyhow, uh, yo, just thank you all the peoples. I'm kind of saying that now it's being redundant. So yo, live long and fucking prosper, everybody. And on my
Peace.
side, I'm gonna go ahead and start the raid for DJ Blasters. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. Who is allegedly Canada's drunkest DJ, but he's a good dude from Montreal and everybody loves him. So if you have, you know, you got to support the local peoples as much as you can with this.
Facts.
So, yo, that's what it is. And yeah, we good. Anytime y'all need to actually dip off is cool.
Salute.
Yo,
All right.
also like
Part two soon.